let's say there's two people in a room, right? And one of them is beating your mom senseless with a shovel, right? And the other guy is literally the same size, if not bigger, than the guy who's beating your mom upside the head with a shovel. Is that guy just as much at fault for not stopping the guy who's actively beating your mom upside the head? Or would you say that guy would you say he's still not as bad for letting it happen?
He'd be way madder of the guy beating my mom in the head with a fucking shovel versus the guy not doing anything. Like, if the guy's being like a complete pussy about it, like a complete man bitch about it.
Jesus.
There
it is.
Yeah.
So, like,
I'd be much mad at dude that's beating her. What? Satisfied at all. Not satisfied at all. I'd still be fucking mad at both people, but I'd be much more mad at the person doing the beating.
How you feeling tonight?
Doing all right. I think I'm kind of fucked up from caffeine. Like, I'm like tired, but also not tired, but also tired.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't fuck myself up like that, because I was gonna drink a G Fuel at like 7:30 just so I could make it all the way through the stream tonight. And I was like, if I do that, I'm gonna be up till 2 a.m. fucking around. So let me not do that.
Yeah. See, yeah, that's just like mad unpleasant when that happens.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Ooh.
Because you're like not even fully awake. You're just tired. You just can't sleep. You're all jittery and shit.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling. And I realize I'm turning more and more like a caffeine zombie. I get addicted to things super quickly. That's why.
Yeah, I just stopped because I was a barista for like 2 years. So
damn.
There was one day I had 8 shots of espresso on one day, and I could feel my heart because we were so busy that day. I could feel my heart beating inside my chest, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm good on coffee for a while.
I'm glad you're alive, Doc. Yeah, that sounds borderline lethal. Yeah, I didn't mean to take too much of your time. Thanks for having the chat.
That's all good, bro. It's not fucking. This shit's open as long as it's cool and we click. You know what I'm saying? And especially if it's nigga time, then I don't care. It's all good.
Tight. Yeah, I'm gonna start things off. I don't plan on coming here with an ulterior motive or anything. I just plan on laying all the cards out.
I know.
For me. All right, so in my head, the way I view the world, I think that people on the progressive left, like SocDems and Democratic Socialists and things like that, and people like further left where you are to the anarchists, I don't want to conflate you with an ML, like potentially MLs and like...
You could probably call me an ML.
Oh, really? Yeah, MLs and things like that. I feel like everybody's on the same bus, right? And I think that we're both headed towards like a left direction. Some of us want to go further left than the others do, so some of us will get off the bus at a lot easier or a lot sooner than the rest will. But I feel like we're on the same direction. And I feel like that bus ride will be going in the right direction, as well as like a lot more amicable if people were like friends with each other, at least tolerated each other, you know? Like, I talked to Stardust. She was kind of like a hard cookie. I'm hoping you're an easier one. Pretty much. I mean,
Stardust is fucking stupid, so.
Yeah, it's not. She's really smart. Come on. But
no, she is not.
I think she's a smart, beautiful.
What makes you say that? What have you seen from her that makes you think, damn, she's actually pretty smart?
I think that she is rhetorically effective when she needs to be. I think she's pretty good at reading people. I think that, I guess it's emotional.
I feel like talking to neo-Nazis would be a time where you would want to be most on point. You feel me? But
yeah, there have been conversations that she's had where I'm not like the biggest fan of like how she engages with people. Like the conversation with Redneck was kind of disappointing. Don't tell her I said that. But yeah.
Why?
Look, I'm trying to be friends with everybody, dog. All right, and this is where the main conversation lies.
Well, is a person really your friend if they don't tell you where you're fucking up?
That's a good question. I think that how my moral like structure lies is that I think sometimes if someone fucks up, you don't tell them. And then they get better because they feel more confident. And then if you do tell someone that they're fucking up, then like they get shakier and they get like more in their feelings and worse. It's kind of like power versus force. It's like if someone were really scared and they did something, then they'd be like a big fuck up. If someone were like really prideful and they did something, they'd be less of a fuck up. But if someone were courageous or did things out of joy or out of love or out of neutrality, they'd be even better. So sometimes it's kind of tough to tell like where you go as far as like, do I give this person feedback just yet, or do I let them get their water?
I mean, there's tactful ways to tell people like, hey, maybe we do this a different way, or like ask people what their motives are, and then ask them if what they're doing is the best strategy to accomplish that. Yo, what up, Tegma?
Damn, you brutalized the fuck out of Shorty. Gosh, dang.
But yeah, I mean, okay. So I think Stardust is probably smart. She's probably a cool person, but the neo-Nazi shit is dumb. She can't demonstrate that she's doing what she thinks she's doing. None of the studies demonstrate that what she thinks she's doing actually works. And the number one example of that shit working that they pull out, Daryl Davis, didn't work with him either. So it's like
I meant to watch that stream. What were your conclusions on Daryl Davis?
So I was under the impression I didn't want to go in too hard about Daryl Davis because I was under the impression we would be speaking to him yesterday, but since we're not, and I don't care. Yeah, he basically anti-fascists did anti-fascist work, infiltrated some of the social media of these Klansmen that he said he's befriending and de-radicalizing, and they're literally just using him to sanitize their image. Which, you know, I'll say this. If I were trying to sanitize my image after having a lot of heat on me for having my words be directly related to more than one high profile killing or multiple killings, you know, getting dragged in the media and shit. If I were trying to recover my image, I'd probably first rebrand, but then try to find as many people as I could talk to who would talk to me, first of all, but then also humanize me to the audience. Just saying that if that were the case with Richard Spencer, Stardust did exactly what she was supposed to do.
Interesting.
That's where the term useful idiot comes from.
I feel like there's
which is part of the reason why I asked, like, who on your team is actually anti-fascist and like dealt with fascists before? Because
I think she said there's someone on her team that talked to the prime minister of, I'm about to say New Zealand, right? Or perhaps Australia.
Yeah, where it was like, congratulations, you kept one famous neo-Nazi out of your country, but you think that kicking Nazis out of a bar is bullshit.
I don't think kicking people out of a bar is bullshit. And also
not you, but like the people making that argument.
Like here's probably the meanest thing I'm gonna say to you. Why do you suck at selling yourself? Like, you did an entire charity stream, an entire stream for Food Not Bombs, and you say you were a bouncer? Dog, why didn't you talk about the fucking Food Not Bombs thing? What the fuck?
It didn't really have a whole lot to do with the topic.
That's like mutual aid. That's a lot of mutual aid. You can
hold on.
yourself more. You know, you can do that.
Well, yeah, but so like, here's the thing. I kind of really don't want anyone from Stardust audience, like, at all. Like, really, really a lot. Like, it kind of worries me that she's put so much content out about me, like featuring me, because I genuinely don't want anyone from her audience to. Because I'm going to have to ban them. They're going to be goofy. I'm going to have to ban them. They're going to be in here spamming honk or slurs or asking dumbass questions or talk about why we need to talk to neo-Nazis or whatever. And like, there's too much overlap between her audience and the neo-Nazis at this point. It's just, when I'm actually, I am really bad at selling myself. I'll give you that. But like, I wasn't trying to sell myself in that conversation with her. I was trying to make her explain that she doesn't know what she's talking about. And I feel like I did a pretty good job of that.
Okay. 1 second. Yeah, you probably know this more than I do. I think that as leftists, and I'm saying this as a liberal, like probably the best bet for recruiting people towards the left is to grab from liberals and just bring them even further left.
You can't though.
You don't think so?
Nah, because first of all, the term liberal is so broad, especially because Nazis pretend to be liberals all the time. Aston just told me in that conversation with Stardust, people confuse him for being a liberal or try to call him a liberal, and he has to say all the time that he's not a liberal. That's number one. Number two is liberals are too married to capitalism to come any further left. They haven't understood capitalism as another tool of white supremacy, so they keep running into the same wall over and over again. That's why we make fun of liberals for talking about shit like reforming the police or reforming the United States government. You're talking about reforming things that were designed to oppress from their inception. So the thing that you're talking about doing, best case scenario, is just straight up incrementalism, and we're supposed to watch thousands of people die in the hopes that we'll eventually get to something that our grandparents hoped would come that they never saw, right? And that's kind of the black pill shit for me right now. What I've been dealing with is like having conversations with my grandmother and, getting to know her background and like how she fucking picked cotton from sun up to sundown and shit. And they didn't have her and her husband, like my grandfather. My grandfather thought voting was so fucking important because he was alive for when black people didn't have the right to vote. But now here we are all these years later, and you still got niggas picking cotton from sun up to sundown in chains. And it's like, what did that really prove at the end of the day? What did that really achieve? Right? Because if we're talking about the change of the material conditions of black people, that more or less came from labor, because that's actually one of the things I'm like researching right now that I'm trying to do a video on, was the fact that the B&O Railroad pretty much invented the black middle class, or at least what's called the black middle class, or what you would have called the middle class back then. There's actually only two classes, the capitalist class and the working class. But it drastically improved the material conditions of black people at the time, because now black people could afford stuff like, indoor plumbing. But yeah, the wall is capitalism, because you can't be anti-capitalist without being anti-racist. You can't be anti-racist without being anti-capitalist. Because, and this is why I'm going to come at like Fabian, is because under capitalism, anything can be commodified, especially anarcho-capitalism, where there's no government regulation on any of the stuff that you can do in capitalism. That means justice can be commodified. That means only people with capital would have access to justice, right? So it doesn't matter what laws you put on the books about who's supposed to get what, right? It doesn't matter how free you are on paper. If you can't afford to do this shit, then how free are you? How free is a person that's on the street starving with no home to go to, no house to go to, no family, mentally ill, fucked up, addicted to heroin, right? How free is that person? It's a free country, so technically they're freer than someone living in like North Korea, but they're fucking miserable. And this is what I get at, where it's like the more things change, the more they stay the same. And it's really weird to me how people, like, especially like that last guy that was like, you could kind of say that because the colonialism happened, now white supremacy rules the world, maybe. And it's like, my dude, if you can't say the world exists as a white supremacist institution, then you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a leftist. You're barely even a liberal, right? You are just a centrist. You're like a right winger. You're an American politically uninitiated person. You're like a high school kid who's like, I think gay marriage is cool and Medicare for all is cool. And that's about as far as you've thought about your political positions.
Damn, I don't know where to go from this one. Like, I didn't want to get to like the anarchism versus capitalism thing.
We don't have to do that now.
Or liberalism, rather. Shit. There's so many points I want to.
But that's we don't have to get too deep into that now, but that's the difference. That's the roadblock. That's the wall. It's not that when it comes to the difference between leftists and liberals, it's not that we want to go further or whatever. It's literally capitalism. It's literally that liberals haven't figured out yet that they are also oppressed by capitalism.
Okay. I mean, I guess when you run into like a SOCDEM, and that's pretty much like a pretty large roadblock is the capitalism part from moving on to like
Democrats
going further left. Okay. Shit. Yeah. Well.
Because that's the other thing is that like all these modifiers and shit that we put on Democrat is like it's silly because you're still voting for the Democratic Party.
This is a whole different conversation, dog.
Facts.
Holy shit.
Yeah, let's bring it back. We were talking about we talk about like the de-radicalization shit and how it's bullshit or whatever.
Yeah. I've heard that complaint about Daryl Davis in the past. I haven't looked into it too much.
Hey, little Springham's, what's up?
Yeah, I'm like Cher. I'm trying to believe in love after love. You know what I'm saying? But like, what the thing is that like I feel like for like reform for a lot of people, and I feel like this might be a disconnect between you and her, is that I think that Star realizes that it's either violence or conversation or something like that. I think that's her dichotomy. I believe so because I think that's my dichotomy as well.
This is why I say Stardust is stupid, because define violence.
Like physical violence, like shooting folks, bombing folks, poisoning motherfuckers.
The stuff they're already doing?
Yeah, but not that those are certain people of that side, right? And like they are doing that, yeah, like
the United States government is doing that, friend.
Yeah, but there's a difference between the United States government and like the Groypers and like the weird like pagan alt-right Nazi motherfuckers. Yeah.
What's the difference?
I think that the government is like more beholden to the people. I think that the government has more.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, I think they have more control and more input from people. Like,
how do you think the women in your crowd feel like about that right now?
The women in the crowd?
Yeah, you think the women feel like they have more control of the government right now?
They probably don't feel that way, but that's just all right. So with the Supreme Court thing, right? So these justices were picked because somebody won. Either the blue guy or the red guy won. The red guy won in 2016. The red guy got to choose a fuck ton of Supreme Court justices, and it was his selection. So like when he like chose these people, yeah, these are fucking crazies. Amy Coney Barrett's like part of a cult, like dog.
Okay,
like, yeah, like
so. Did you vote in 2008, or do you remember, old enough to remember Obama, what he ran on?
Change. I didn't vote in 2008, no.
Well, I mean, that was his campaign slogan. But one of the things on his platform literally was codifying Roe v. Wade into law. And he said it wasn't a priority after he got elected.
Damn.
So this is the problem that like leftists talk about when we talk about why voting is dumb and electoralism is fucking stupid, is because the conversation about this is that you can't just do it one time and expect it to happen overnight. And it's like you're speaking to people like me who have family histories of people who've been voting for like 50, 60 fucking years. And that is what the Democrats do. That's like their job, is to remove the effectiveness of grassroots and populist, socialist, and like radical movements, commodify them so that capitalists can make money off of them. And then that's where they end up. That's what happened with Black Lives Matter. That's what happened with the breakfast program that the Black Panther Party came up with. That's their role. So it's like the liberals want to blame the Republicans and their action all they want. But the fact of the matter is, inaction is also action. And Democrats have had insane opportunities to fix this problem, but they're not interested in it. Why? Because if they fix the problem, why the fuck would you vote for them? If they did what they were supposed to do, then you wouldn't vote for them. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi is already fucking fundraising off of this shit.
I thought she was going to retire this round.
She will never. Oh, we thought RBG was going to retire too, but here we are.
Yeah, like I understand that the Democrat Party, like there'll be like people that are some of the best people in the world, and then there'll be some people that are just like kind of like conceited pieces of shit. that just
I
like
mean, the entire Democratic Party is pretty trash, if you ask me.
really like even people
Yeah.
like AOC, like the Squad,
Yep.
like Shawty Ilhan.
Like it's like, so when we're talking about AOC and shit, it's like, do you want a wet dog turd or a dry one? You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's kind of pessimistic.
where it's like AOC and them are cool-ish, but it's like having a nice slave master. You know what I mean? At least this slave master is nicer than the last one, and nicer than the potential next one. And that's the problem I have with liberals too. It's like, you guys don't want to not be slaves anymore. It's like, nah, we just want to have a nice slave master. That's all.
Yeah, I guess I don't see it that way. I think that these people are quite literally like
How
servants
come?
of the people. Yeah, I think these people are servants of the people. They do what their constituents find popular in order to get reelected every 2 or 4 or 6 years for the most part. Not the Supreme Court, but everyone else. And
there's like data demonstrating that they don't vote with what the populace wants, though. They vote with what their donors want.
okay, I'd have to see more on that data. I can bend a little.
Give me a second, I can get it for you.
Yeah, okay.
Because I'm in this fucking fight, but yeah, the United States government has not been was really never a democracy, but it hasn't functioned the way that people think it functioned since the 70s. What gets voted and codified into law largely correlates more with what corporations and big money donors want than it does with the actual constituents of the people who vote for them. And this is like just a fact. This fucking guy. Dems can legally rig primaries. Yeah, I mean Bernie Sanders, but a lot of people don't even believe that. So what can you even say?
Wait, that's borderline like a conspiracy theory, though. You're talking about the Warren thing, or like
what's that?
Are you talking about the Pete Buttigieg thing, or are you talking about the Warren thing?
No,
for 2020. I'm assuming you mean 2020.
2016, but they did it again in 2020.
Yeah, my memory for 2016 is kind of fuzzy. I remember specifically for 2020, like Warren, like literally fucked Bernie over. Like I can't deny that. Like even Donald Trump was like, "Yo,
I mean,
like, y'all
that's
just fucked Bernie over."
And you can't say that Bernie wasn't the most popular candidate, but he wasn't the most popular Democratic candidate. So they're like, nah. If Bernie gets in there, he's gonna fuck our bag up. So let's get some milquetoast fucker in there, like Joe Biden, some fucking segregationist. We'll get the Republican, we'll get the right winger or we'll get the candidate that Joe Biden explicitly picked to appease Republicans. We'll get him in there. This is the fucking liberal centrism that's goofy as fuck. Obama gets elected president. Motherfuckers are in the streets calling him a monkey and the Antichrist and all this shit. And he's like, what can I do to make these people happy?
Yeah, you have to get both sides of the party happy. You can't just hey, thanks for the
That's not the point. They will never be happy. They will literally never be happy. That's the point. Because they don't want you in there. They want you dead.
Yeah, see, I don't believe that as well. Like, talking to conservatives, I don't think that they want black and gay people and trans people dead. I legitimately think that their moral systems...
They just don't care if we die.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that.
And that's different somehow?
Yeah, not necessarily caring if someone dies versus wanting them dead are two different things.
Okay, so...
Like, what I'm saying is, though...
So, hold on, before we continue with that,
yeah, of course.
You're standing in a room with two people. One dude doesn't care if you die. The other dude is about to stab you to death. You're like, oh, one dude's cooler than the other?
Yeah.
Like, there actually is no functional difference between somebody who wants to kill you and someone who will watch you die. And I really wish people understood this.
I mean, the functional difference is like no one's taking the affirmative action of killing me, right?
They're also not taking the affirmative action of stopping you from being killed while people are trying to kill you, Taj. How is this different?
I think that like the affirmative action of killing someone is a lot different than the affirmative action of like doing nothing and not wanting someone dead. Because
that's not true in the eyes of the law either, right? Like there's actually a charge that you can catch if you, for example, you watch someone in a car that's about to fall off a cliff and you decide not to act and they can prove that you could save them. This is why EMTs have licensure and shit. Like when I got training for an EMT, they explicitly told me that when I got that card, and if someone, for example, needed the Heimlich maneuver and someone could tell that I was there and could help and didn't, I would be liable for suing, obviously. But yeah, they could also charge me. So like the fact that the person is not taking initiative to kill you is not going to change the fact that the end result of that is you being dead. So when you say that there's a difference, you sound silly. And I need for you to understand
there's
that.
a quantifiable difference. Like, for example, like, all right, say you just cut these two people, right? Would you rather be in the room with the person that only it's just you and them, right? Person A wants to kill you. They want to actively kill you. Person B doesn't care if you live or die. You can have a heart attack in front of them. They just don't really give too much of a shit.
Are you saying 100% of the people in America don't care if black people live or die? None of them want to kill black people.
I'm not saying that. We're talking about the other half of the
so
country,
why are we
right?
doing this weird hypothetical?
Yeah, so we're going to, all right, so we're going against the liberals versus conservatives, right? You're saying that like conservatives actively want people dead. I'm saying that it's a little bit more nuanced than that. Some people literally have like moral structures where they just don't necessarily give a shit about their fellow man. It's not the same as wanting them dead. And I think
it is when they vote and exist side by side with people who do want you dead, Taj. Like, I truly don't get it. Like, hey, those dudes are kind of sort of okay because they just stood there and watched and giggled while the other people fucking lynched me. Like, do you understand how silly that sounds?
I don't think it's that blatant for people. I'm just not sure. I honest to God don't think it's that blatant. Like, for example, when people like talk about oh yeah this trans shit's like kind of bad, but I want my gas prices lower, and they legitimately believe that conservatives can lower the gas prices or some dumb shit like that. Like, I don't think they're like, oh, I want to.
They're voting for the same people who want to kill trans people, dog. Like, what the fuck is this take? I truly don't understand.
These people are rooting for like lower gas prices, and like some issue that's not relevant to their lives is secondary. Like, if we operate with this system, then I can say, oh shit, well, like this person doesn't want to like feed every starving person in a different continent, so like I'm actively a part of this person dying in a different continent. I don't think it like, how many degrees of separation can
you literally are. If you have the capability to help, then you are responsible. And if you don't, you are culpable.
Damn.
This is basic shit.
I like to think that this is like a lot of different like degrees of separation. So you're saying that we're all culpable in some way of some person in like France fucking dying of starvation because we should have like had made some sort of super pot to like fucking like feed every person in France.
Unironically, yes. Like, there's obviously levels depending on class and your level of access to capital and that sort of thing. But like, yes, the United States as a nation is responsible for a lot of fucking hungry people around the world, unironically. And a lot of people vote for that and not care. So they're responsible, yes.
So what does it mean if we don't vote and like we just let whatever party of the two parties win? Like, are we still responsible for these things?
No.
How are we absolved of responsibility by not voting?
Because I have no power.
Okay, so if I voted Democrat, I'd be like playing a part in like some of bad shit happening that conservatives do that Democrats don't like take enough action to stop. And what you're saying is that if I didn't vote, then I no longer am culpable. I'm no longer guilty of these things.
Hold on, hang on. This fucking...
Did I misunderstand? I might have misunderstood that.
Like, I'm in the middle of this fight. Give me a sec.
Yeah, sorry about that. McDonald's Wi-Fi is an awesome name, by the way. That's a good...
Why did he do that?
Like McDonald's Wi-Fi?
He armor broke me. He could have comboed me, but he just uppercutted me.
Interesting.
Why the fuck? Why is my controller like this? You can't vote third because third's not going to win. Third's a waste of vote, and people tell you that. They want you to vote Democrat.
Yeah, I do think that like voting third party outside of like local elections, like say like in certain districts in like Oregon and Washington,
You can vote third party in a local election, yeah, and maybe the people who actually win will pick up their platform. But other than that, it's pretty fucking meaningless. Like if I vote DSA in my local elections, it's not going to mean fuck all. But that's unfortunately the only fucking shits that I would really vote for, or like PSL. But like, the fuck is doing anything with them?
PSL is interesting. They're nice people. The ones in Florida. Or I only know the St. Pete PSL. There's no Orlando PSL.
Oh, I'm just gonna quit this game so I can actually have this conversation.
Okay.
So when we're talking about culpability or responsibility, when you take positive actions, so there's two. So inaction can also be action, right? I'm just gonna flip the set.
Yeah. You can forfeit your dice roll.
If you have power, then yeah, but it's like not even a dice roll when you understand that the Republicans aren't winning because they're playing the game. They're winning because they designed the game and own the table, right? So like we had to fight for our right to even be able to vote. Women had to fight for our right to be able to vote, right?
Yeah.
We understand that the game was rigged from the onset. So like we also understand that the powers that be are clever enough to make sure that like, because that is the game of capitalism, right? Is that you acquire and accrue capital and you use that capital to protect the capital you have and acquire more. That's literally it. It's the number one goal, infinite growth. So like when you're talking about people who own capital, then yeah, they're pretty directly responsible for a lot of the ways that the shit is fucked up right now. Because so here's how I see it. Like when it comes to just in general and my own personal frustrations, I feel like people are pretty culpable for how fucked up the world is, in a sense that if we all were putting in the right kind of effort, it would be over by now, right? If we were all doing food not bombs, if we were all building dual power and that sort of thing, then we kind of wouldn't really need the United States government because we would have our own thing built. And that would obviously need to be defended because of how the United States government operates. But when you're talking about people who just simply vote for white supremacists, even though they themselves might not necessarily be white supremacists, it doesn't fucking matter because white supremacy is the status quo, and you don't necessarily need to be aware of that to perform that particular thing. Just like as a man, you don't need to be aware that you fucking don't view women as human to like know what misogyny is. So that Kobold Gaming just sent me a phone call. Oh, that was the guy that I just faced. So
yeah, I see what you're. I understand what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from. And I know that it's fucking frustrating as shit. Where like you get someone.
It's just because I genuinely don't understand. Like this is like under any other normal circumstance, when I tell someone that the person who just stands there and watch the other person strangle you is just as bad as the person who strangled you, they're like, yeah, of course, obviously. But you're like, actually.
Yeah, no, one person's like demonstrably worse than the other.
How?
All right, we're looping. I don't mean to loop, but what I'm saying is that the person that watches you get strangled versus the person actively strangling you, you'd be a lot safer if out the person that is strangling you versus the person just.
But that's a hypothetical. That doesn't have anything to do with the situation we're in now. There are people who want to kill us, and there are people who are enabling the people who want to kill us. So that's the status quo. So for you to pretend like we don't live in a society that's actively trying to kill us is just fucking, I don't know what to call that, my dude. I'm trying to go easy, but like you have your head in the sand. We live in a white supremacist society. There are white supremacists out there in government, in the police, in the military, right? And you're telling me that some fucking teenage 4chaner is cool because he supports that shit, but he's never actually killed a black person himself. You understand how silly that is?
I mean, supporting that versus like not lifting a finger to stop it are different things. Like if someone,
what?
Yeah, like I'll co-sign that. Yeah. All right. So say some 4chaner was like, yeah, I know all this bad shit's happening. I'm distinctly aware of this bad shit happening, but I'm not doing anything. I'm not lifting a fucking finger to change shit except making a few memes on Twitter that my buddies on 4chan and Reddit are gonna look at. Like that's not as bad as the person actively doing something.
Start it from the beginning. I'm sorry.
Okay, so the memer kid on 4chan that is distinctly aware, like say they have like a college grad's level of awareness of bad shit happening, not lifting a finger to stop it, and just chilling knowing that this bad shit's happening in the world, that doesn't make them as guilty or as dangerous as the person that's actively doing the bad shit.
What? How? They're directly related and moving in the same political direction.
I'm trying to dissect why you think they're directly related and directly as bad as like the,
because they literally both vote for the same political party. What kind of question? Where are we even going with this right now?
Okay, so the people that are actively doing the bad thing, like, and the person that's like not doing the bad thing, but it's just like, okay, I'm distinctly aware this is bad, but I'm not going to lift a finger to stop it. Like, I think that the person that's not doing a bad thing, but not lifting a finger to stop it, I feel like that person can be brought on to a more like positive direction, as you will.
How? If they literally watch people get murdered and they're like, I don't have the empathy for this. How are you going to teach them empathy as a part of the class that they don't care gets killed? You have no answer to that because it doesn't work that way.
I think changing their buy-in. I think by upping their
so the Stardust argument. How do you change their mind?
I guess by educating them, making them more familiarized with other groups of people.
How do you educate them when their entire life is a positive feedback loop for shit that they already do? You understand white supremacy is like white privilege. When you're trying to quote unquote de-radicalize people, you have to give them something that is more valuable to them than what the benefits that they think they get from white supremacy are and white privilege. This is why only experts do this shit, because it takes time and it happens in private. And it doesn't happen just because you let the Nazis sit at the table with you until they eventually change their mind about wanting to kill you or not caring that someone else wants to kill you from their group.
I think that having an open look, I don't, because see, if you say I'm like doing the Stardust argument, then I have to like.
You literally are.
I also at the same time, I feel you're gonna make me like bite the bullet of like co-signing certain things that she's done that I don't necessarily agree with.
No, I'm not gonna make you bite the bullet. But if you're making the same arguments that we've literally spent the last 5 days debunking, then like, why would you do that?
Okay, I'm not gonna. There's certain things that I do co-sign, and there's certain things I don't co-sign.
Okay, what do you co-sign?
All right, I co-sign the idea of like of making people familiar, or like being that person that someone can be like, oh, this is a real life person I can talk to.
The token.
Yo, Taj, I got a question for you, homie.
Yeah, sure.
And please don't pussyfoot around this, all right?
I'll try to bite whatever bullet or like answer honestly as much as I can.
Okay, so
even if it's like a life-ending question, holy shit.
Okay, so let's say there's two people in a room, right? And one of them is beating your mom senseless with a shovel, right? And the other guy is literally the same size, if not bigger, than the guy who's beating your mom upside the head with a shovel. Is that guy just as much at fault for not stopping the guy who's actively beating your mom upside the head? Or would you say that guy still would you say he's still not as bad for letting it happen.
He's not as bad for letting it happen. Versus
This is the
like,
weirdest shit, bro. We already talked about this.
Yeah,
He's like, I don't know why he believes that, but
I'd be way madder of the guy beating my mom in the head with a fucking shovel versus the guy not doing anything. Like, if the guy's being like a complete pussy about it, like a complete man bitch about it.
Jesus.
Like, yeah, no.
There
like,
it is.
Yeah.
So like,
I'd be much mad at dude that's beating her. What?
So you'd be more satisfied that your mom is dead because one person didn't actually participate in it?
Not satisfied at all. Not satisfied at all. I'd still be fucking mad at both people, but I'd be much more mad at the person doing the beating.
Holy shit.
Like, if I had one bullet and a choice to shoot either one of them, would you shoot the guy that didn't do anything, or would you shoot the guy that beat your mom with a shovel?
Holy shit, bro.
No, for real. Like, real question. Can you answer that one for me? So would you rather shoot?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at Endless, and it's like
Would you rather shoot the
I'm having the
coward
same
or the
reaction.
murderer?
I'm back. I'm gonna ask you two questions,
Would
and
you rather
then
shoot the
this
coward or the
conversation.
murderer?
I'm gonna ask
And
you
if you
two
don't-
questions.
Yes, and if you don't-
two important questions that are gonna
Answer
dictate
that one right
how
after
this
I answer
moves.
this one, all right?
What was your question? You can go first.
Yeah, so the person earlier that had the shovel analogy, I asked them if you had you have a bullet, right? And one gun, one bullet. And you're a great marksman. And you have the choice to shoot the guy who did nothing, the coward, or the guy that actively beat your mother with a shovel. Are they equally shootable, or which one's more shootable after the fact?
It doesn't matter because my mother's already dead. That's the point.
All right, you have to answer this, or else like a squad of people bust in the room and shoot you.
We don't have to answer. You're answering the question with another question.
Yeah, I'm testing your logic right now. I'm testing like your evaluation system.
What logic?
In my evaluation system, how I rationalize this, I'm saying that the person that actually does the beating is more at fault than the person that just pussies out.
Are you saying okay? So do you think the more important part of it is your mother's death, or who is at fault for your mother's death?
After the death is the most important, but who's at fault for the death?
Okay.
Too?
Right. Okay. They
they're
both
not
are
equally at
because they
fault.
both participated in it.
That's what the fuck? What the fuck? This is just an insane fucking. How are you guys?
You're saying that the person who's
by letting it happen.
he's literally an accomplice. The person that stands there and watch you get murdered is an accomplice to murder. Like, you're the only person with busted logic in here. You're literally trying to weasel and do this because you want to be friends with Stardust. That's it. You're trying to say that the person who stands there and watches and giggled as your mother gets stabbed to death is somehow better than the person who actually stabbed your mother?
Yes.
Because he didn't physically hold the knife.
Yes. Even in the court of law, it plays out that way, where the valuation of culpability goes to the person that's holding the knife and doing the stabbing, or doing the beating with a shovel.
They would get the same charges, friend.
Who would get
the same charges.
Who would get a harder sentence?
Why does that matter?
But you're
like, why does that matter? You're like, your mom got beat upside the head with a shovel. Why does it matter? Like, who gets the bigger sentence?
Okay, because they would get the bigger sentence. No, yes, we're using this analogy because you're missing the point of the analogy. The point of the analogy is that both people will result in your mother being dead. And your weasel way around it is to be like, well, if the person actually killing her wasn't there, then it would be fine. And number one, that's not the analogy. Number two, there are no people who don't want to kill us in America.
Wait, my response to that one was that the person doing the stabbing is worse than the person just laughing. They can even giggle. They can put it on World Star, and they can still be less guilty than the person stabbing her.
How? When they literally participated at that point.
But who's doing the worst part of participation?
Okay, so let's go with this. There is one party that is more culpable, more extreme, and one party less extreme. Mm-hmm. Let's apply that to white supremacy. So there's moderate white supremacists.
This is going back to the Democrat-Republican thing now, right? So
No. This is your analogy. You said that there are people who vote Republican or people who vote alongside white supremacists who might not actively want to see black people die.
Yeah.
This is how we even got to this analogy in the first place.
Yeah, their reasoning for doing such things aren't because of the white supremacists. It's for other things. Like maybe they're pro-life. Maybe they're just like have some weird belief about taxation. Like,
friend, I don't give a fuck about that because the end result is still my death, whether they intend for it or not. I'm supposed to be comfortable on the other side. Like, well, they killed me, but at least they didn't mean to. They fucking genocided my whole family, but at least it was because they were just trying to get the oil out the ground from underneath their house. You understand how silly that sounds?
I see what you're saying. I think it's for their perceived like moral framework and their perceived survival and existence.
Yes, as white people, as the people who have the power under the system of white supremacy, friend. That's why black people don't vote Republican typically. It's because Republicans are white supremacists.
I think some people vote Republican are legitimately not white supremacists. Like some of them,
and they vote with white supremacists, dog. That's why we're going in another circle.
White supremacists, but I don't think that makes them a white supremacist.
And why should I care when they're literally enabling white supremacists, whether they know it or not?
Because some people are winnable. Some people are completely winnable.
You're talking about Taj. You're literally saying they don't give a fuck about whether I live or die, and you think I can win them? You understand how silly that sounds?
And on top of that, on top of that, you know, you can morally not be a white supremacist and at the same time systemically be a white supremacist. That is a thing.
I could pay lip service to feminism and still be a raging fucking misogynist. That is also a thing.
Okay, so it seems like you guys are moving the dynamic quite a bit. So on one level,
we're literally not.
Okay. So now, in order to bring more clarity and more nuance to this, to save my bacon,
there's really no nuance here.
I have to say that Republicans they're not all white supremacists. Some of them aren't aware of it being of the Republican Party being like a party of white
and
supremacy.
They support white supremacists who want to kill us. And you're telling me that we can win them by question marks when they already don't care if we live or die.
You have to increase their buy-in for the Dems. Yeah, you have to increase their buy-in for progressive causes.
No, you have to give them something that they find more valuable than what they receive.
Yes.
And you already said they don't give a fuck if we live or die. So what the fuck am I going to do to make my life valuable to someone who literally votes for white supremacists?
All right, so this is what I'm saying, that we're hopping lenses right now. So
we really are not. This is a direct line of questioning. You're saying that not all people who vote Republican are white supremacists. I'm saying it doesn't fucking matter because the end result of their ideology is my death, regardless of what their goal is. Your retort to that is, well, we can win them because they're not active white supremacists. And I'm asking you,
they could be one, yeah.
How do you win people who do not value your life?
By increasing their buy-in. For example, for like abortion.
Increasing their buy-in?
Yes.
What?
Yeah. Their emotional buy-in to progress. Their emotional buy-in to the Democratic Party. Their emotional buy-in to the well-being of minorities within their country. And
their emotional buy-in is conservatism, friend. The whole point of their entire ideology is to keep things the same. That's why the fuck they don't give a fuck if you live or die.
I feel like you've met so many conservatives in your life, and I feel like you know their motivations more than what you're displaying right now. What I'm saying is that their belief system is based off of where...
I know their motivations because... Let me explain something to you. Okay. Because I don't know if this was made clear at the beginning of our conversation. I'm one generation from at least 3 straight fucking generations of slavery. When I tell you I know what white people want and what white supremacists are and what conservatives want, they want to fuck us, they want to kill us, and they want to eat us. In that order. Some are nicer about it than others, but that is it. They do not see us as equal citizens. Some of them barely even see us as human. This is why when I tell you you're being fucking silly is why you should listen to me. Is because just because they don't say the N-word in front of you doesn't mean they wouldn't stand there and watch someone who is close to them that does beat the fuck out of you until you are dead. Dog is man's best friend. That does not mean that man doesn't view himself as a superior animal. And I said the same thing to Stardust, and she didn't get it either because she was too concerned about being liked by everybody than understanding that this system that you're trying to challenge is older than you, older than your mother, older than your grandparents, older than your great grandparents. And they all had their lives fucking risked by it. So when you hop on this fucking platform and say we can win them by increasing their buy-in and humanizing ourselves to them, they have been through generations, and I mean generations, of dehumanization of us. You know how we have generational trauma? Guess what the fuck they have? Guess what they have? You seen the pictures of little kids laughing and playing at lynchings and the postcards? You understand what that does to a person? Especially generation after generation after generation? You're telling me a person who had kids at the lynching is eventually one day going to be like, actually, let me start voting Democrat because today I care about gay people.
You and
I know I just laughed at a lynching 2 weeks ago.
That they're savable.
What's that?
You and I both agree that they can be changed. They can have entire dynamic and entire paradigm shifts as far as their belief system.
Some of them, but not all of them.
You literally trying to start this debate. You said, I'm an anarchist, Stardust. I believe everybody can be redeemed and changed.
I don't believe in irredeemable. I said that.
Irredeemable people. Yeah, that's what you said. Thank you.
Right. But we don't have the time, the power, or the resources to redeem these people. And pretending like we do is fucking foolish. And it's going to get you exactly what Stardust has. You're going to have a chat full of fucking Nazis and be like, but I thought you guys were cool. Because you have no power to play with these people. You have nothing to offer them. You have nothing to give them. And you have nothing to force them to do anything with. The only thing you have is their word. And they will lie to you.
Can I ask you
their
something?
Entire ideology is based on lie.
Can I ask you something that you don't have to answer if you don't want to? How old were you 15 years ago?
How was I 15 years ago?
Yeah, how were you a lot more to the right 15 years ago as far as where you are now?
Not a lot, but I was probably less educated because I just hadn't read as much theory. But
true, but there's an emotional buy-in to it as well. So let me ask you something.
Fam, hold on, stop. Wait a minute. Are you asking me this because you genuinely think that just given enough time, people will stop being white supremacists when there are literally entire towns dedicated to upholding white supremacy in this country? That's what you're asking me right now?
I'm asking you. Yeah, I'm asking for your personal journey. Let me finish the questions. Wait
a minute. Stop, dude. Do you think that me being a black man in America would have anything to do with my journey politically? Or do you think that all people, regardless of their color, just engage with this power structure the same way?
I think that you would have a greater deal of lived experience as a black person, yeah.
Okay, so knowing that, what the fuck are you going to tell a white man whose literally entire life, his career, his family, all of his friend group is set, and they're all, at the very least, people who don't give a fuck about white supremacists? You're going to cry, and that's just going to make him not give a fuck about the entire life that he's built, that his grandparents built for him?
See, and this question is this question is really weird to me because you're asking a black person what their political leanings were 15 or 16 years ago, right? As though this is supposed to be okay. What's the question then?
All right, excellent. All right, so 15 years ago, all right, 13 now, so I imagine you're 17 or some shit. Have you met all right, when was the first time you met a trans person? Were you in your 20s or as a teenager, or I just want to know?
Fam, as a child, I live in, do you know where I live?
Maryland?
I live in Baltimore, Maryland. Yes. I met my first trans person. There was a trans woman on the radio, Miss Tony. I probably heard my first trans woman's voice when I was 6, 7 years old. Right. And if you're asking me what my position was on trans people, I always thought that they were acceptable because see, niggas, we have this thing where we mind our fucking business, right? So
okay, I grew up in a completely different part of the country. Then I don't think I ever.
Yeah.
I don't think I met a trans person until my early 20s.
Baltimore is one of the capitals in the country. It's Baltimore, Atlanta. It's queer capital of the fucking country. It's San Francisco out this bitch.
Oh, what the fuck? I didn't know. That's cool. All right, so sorry, I grew up in like Orlando, Florida, born and raised. That's the South. It's like right on the booty of the
Deep
Bible
South,
Belt.
yes.
Yeah, of the Bible Belt, right? So I didn't see a trans person until my 20s. I don't think I saw a trans person at all. Yeah, till my fucking 20s. And I was a lot more transphobic when I was like 20, 21, 22.
Mhm.
I'm 28 right now.
Right.
2 years ago, I went to one of the BLM movement, not the org movement uprisings in Orlando, and I saw a lot of trans flags and like a lot of trans people were out there in support of Black lives. And then that's at that moment I was like, oh shit, these are the homies.
Right. So
like the buy-in, my buy-in for trans rights and trans liberation like increased exponentially since then. Like
so you're saying, okay, I used to call people the T slur, then someone called me that.
I didn't go that far.
Okay, I'm hypothetically like stretching, right? Someone, not you, someone uses the T slur, then they're called the N slur, and they're like, damn, that doesn't feel good. Maybe I should start thinking about how I feel about trans people, right? That's the moral of the story.
Yeah, I didn't realize because like
okay, when does that moment come for white men who are literally at the top of the power structure and have zero people to come and call them any slurs? When does that happen for them?
I think that when they become more familiar with people of color and marginalized groups, then their emotional buy-in for those marginalized groups will change and they will increase.
When has that been the case? Because the only time that they became more familiar with indigenous people and marginalized groups, they decided to put us in chains and cut our hands off and shit. So I'm waiting for this to happen. You keep saying it like it means anything to me, as if white people don't live completely fucking surrounded by us all the time, as if they didn't go out of their way to keep us separate from their lives. Just by knowing that we exist, that will somehow grush empathy into their heart.
I think that knowing that we exist, knowing like having community members that are familiar to them will change their views on Black people. And
how come it didn't do that for Thomas Jefferson?
He saw them as property.
And what do white supremacists see us as?
And once again, there were founders that were anti-slavery, but they made that compromise just to get the Constitution finished.
Right. Because they benefited from that system.
Yeah, they did.
And they went along with it. It didn't give a fuck what they were anti, because they stood there and ratified a constitution with whole ass slaves, correct?
They did. A lot of them had slaves.
Okay, then. So when you tell me that our proximity or them knowing that we exist or having members of us in their community will somehow change their hearts, they've had 600 fucking years to do that. And it ain't happened yet. So what's the timetable on that, Taj? Because the only thing I've seen is them cutting our hands off, eating us, fucking us, burning us alive, sterilizing us, doing experiments on our children. They did all that shit when we were living right next to them. So you think their kids are going to be better just because they said so and we hope so?
I think that this is like a back and forth of progress that we're living in, and America really is an experiment. And I think it's an experiment that's worth like completing till the end.
America is a colony. That's what it is. It's not an experiment. It's a colony. There were people here that are gone now for the most part. And there are people who were not supposed to be here that are here now because they were brought here against their will.
Mm-hmm.
America's a colony. And that's what the police are, as an occupying military force to uphold colonial power.
It's literally what the flag's designed after, too.
Okay.
The 13 colonies, because the United States of America is a colony. Have you read any Frantz Fanon, just out of curiosity?
Frantz Fanon, I've heard the name, but I've read none of it.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, what's Frantz Fanon saying now? What's their main
He talks about in the book for Black Skin, White Masks about how colonized people will take on the social and emotional qualities of their oppressor. And there creates a cognitive dissonance when colonized people try to act like colonists or settlers, and the settlers and colonists remind them who and what they actually are.
Isn't that every like person of color in the United States?
No, not every.
We take on qualities of our oppressor, right? So you're speaking English for what reason?
Right, yeah. Because the United States of America is a colony.
Okay. So here's the thing though. If we can't change people's like minds through education and familiarity, which honest to God, like there's actually, you know what? Nah, fuck that question. I'll get there later. I'm gonna like list off a few events, right? And I want you to tell me if you think that they had black friends growing up, if they were close to black people and familiar with black people growing up, or not. So first person is the guy from Buffalo, New York, like the top grocery shooter. Do you think he had black friends growing up? Do you think he like felt comfortable around black people, or did they feel like a huge like anomaly to him, like they were like not that, like they were unfamiliar to him?
Fam, you're telling me he lived in New York and never encountered a single black person?
I heard upstate New York's kind of white. Let me see where he's from, just to be completely fair.
Also, you do realize that they used to literally make us raise their children, right? Like they used to have us give their kids breast milk and shit. Like, I don't understand what, like, at what point, this is why I keep saying this shit. We have done literally everything. We have given them literally everything. Everything. We've given them our blood, our breast milk, our children. We have given them everything. So what do we give them, and how long does it take for them to come around? Because as stated previously, they brought us here in the 1600s, and they've had that long to figure it the fuck out and haven't. So what do we have now? The internet? We have porn. We got Pornhub. Pornhub is going to make white people stop fucking killing black people. That's what we got going on?
No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that, like, if you have people in, like, all right, so the general idea is what I'm saying is that, like, multiracial communities generally tend to be less racist than, like, communities that are...
Taj, multiracial communities have always fucking existed.
Okay. But is there more racism in, like, what's the right word for, like, community of one race?
There is no more or less racism now. It's just different.
I don't know about that, man. I think there's a lot less racism now than, like, 100 years ago.
How?
I'm sorry. I gotta end this call. I gotta end this conversation. Wait. I'm sorry. I gotta tag out.
All right, man. I didn't mean to be exhausting or anything. I appreciate you for your time. Yeah, until next time. Wait, one last question. And this might be the one that pisses like you off to eternity and beyond. Is there anything... I cannot hear you. What?
You were muted. Oh,
sorry about that. Yeah, one final question before I get out of here. And I asked Stardust this question too. And I'm hopefully you're easier to get like a good response from with this one. Is there anything that someone like Stardust can do to get back in like you and Aston's good graces? Like, I think the bus moves faster towards the left. Like when people that are liberals and people that are leftists like ride on it and are at least comfortable with each other. Maybe disagreements, but at least comfortable.
Leftists and liberals don't have the same goals, and I really wish you guys understood that.
I mean, we want less racial disparity. We want less.
You want less racial disparity, but you still want capitalism.
Yeah, less economic inequality.
How do you do that?
There's always.
Yeah.
How do you fix?
Capitalism is fueled by economic inequality. You realize this, right?
Yeah. How do you fix that?
People that are like housed more, people that have more access to healthcare, preventative and dental and vision and fucking like mental health shit. And people that like
so redistribution of wealth.
Yeah.
That is not capitalism.
Right. So I'm what you call like a social democrat. I'm like the last stop.
I know you're pretty confused.
No, I'm the last stop in capitalism before it turns into like more of a socialist system. So I'm pro union.
Stop. Socialism and capitalism are not the same. You can have certain socialist programs in capitalism, but you cannot have socialistic capitalism. It's not a gradient. It's like apples and oranges.
So you don't.
You either have socialism. No, you either have socialism or you have capitalism.
Okay, I see it as a complete gradient, where like you go like left enough, then boom, you're in socialism. So now
we've established that you're pretty confused.
Yeah. So what do you think democratic socialism is? What do you think market socialism is?
Liberalism.
Oh shit! Damn, that's a spicy take.
How?
I mean,
I'm sorry. So democratic socialism. If we're talking about democratic socialism, there are no democratic socialist parties in America. There's like the PSL, maybe the DSA, and maybe like the Workers' World Party or some other fucking nutso tanky shit like that.
To you, or like what are they to you?
They're socialist and communist, but like, how much power do they have in the United States of America?
They're growing.
Do they have?
DSA
who has the most power? Do you think they could challenge Wall Street even if they got the same amount of power that the Democrats had?
Do you think DSA could?
I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
Yeah, if DSA had the same power as the Democratic Party, do you think the DSA would be more effective at combating Wall Street? Hell yeah. I think that the Democratic Party is like a very wide umbrella, right? There are people like Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, and there are people like AOC, like Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib, people like Raphael Warnock and shit. Bernie Sanders, Democrat.
They're all capitalists except for Bernie Sanders, kind of, but
yeah. So it's a wide range of people. So if we had the DSA as,
and they're all capitalists, bro. Like,
okay, so if we had the DSA that had the same amount of power as the Dems, I think Wall Street would have.
You understand that capitalism is a white supremacist like organization of the economy, right?
I don't agree with that necessarily. No.
Why?
I think that capitalism, based on capital, based on you don't need race to have capitalism. So
Sam,
what you need? Okay, hang on. Wait, Mallory, before you go, because I need him to understand something. But you need different classes to have capitalism. Yes.
Yes, and you're about to say that race is a class, right?
It is.
Okay.
So how do you fix that?
How do I fix racism? More familiarity. I'm someone that believes in like a browning out.
More familiar than the 600 plus years they've had with us.
And there's been a lot of change in those 600 years. Yeah.
What change?
People aren't like born into slavery anymore. Legally.
How?
No, people literally aren't born into slavery anymore.
Not literally on paper, but there's people we do have a school to prison pipeline, do we not?
Yeah, it's a school.
Okay.
That can be fixed under capitalism, though. That's what I'm saying.
All right, dog. I'm gonna talk to you later. It was good talking to you.
Always a pleasure, man. Tajman John, Bars and Joysticks, Talking Politics. Thanks so much for your time. Everybody hear me? I don't know. Hey, what's up, Star? How's it going?
Good. How's it going with you?
What the fuck? I didn't expect it to get cut down like that. What the fuck?
I'm sorry. He probably didn't like that I was in your chat either.
No, that's more than fine.
Capitalism.
It's my favorite face of white supremacy.
Yes, I am here. Known white supremacist Stardust. In the call. I was trying to say, like, capitalism's lifted more people out of poverty than any other economic system, right? Like, we tried communism a couple of times, and I'm sure we could try it again, but those couple of times, a lot of people were hungry, and I like food way too much to be trying out communism again.
Look, I'm very generous I'm very generous to people that are like super anti-capitalist, right? Like super to the left. Like when people say the communism thing, I'm like, yeah, I don't think communism's ever been done in life outside of like the Native American model. But like at the same time, like I feel like for all the material issues that people have with capitalism can be solved within capitalism. There's no need to leave. Like, oh yeah, you want people fed, you want people to have opportunity to education for a better life, for great quality of life. You can do that under capitalism with certain changes to the government, certain changes to our fucking system, and it's still going to be capitalism. Okay, when you say that a market socialist and a democratic socialist are not socialists but are actually capitalists, then fuck, dude. Like, you can do this shit with the capitalism. What the fuck? I'm trying to be fucking nice to everybody.
I thought it was funny when he said that all of those people are capitalists except for Bernie. I'm like, Bernie's a sock dem. He's a capitalist too. Like, whether you want to.
Nah, Bernie fucking LARPs as a socialist, and people think it's true. It's fucking stupid.
Why are you platforming this known alt-right extremist? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're already getting it now.
Wait, what? Who am I platforming?
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Yo, what the fuck?
No, also, I want to say one more thing. His whole thing about, like, converting people from the right doesn't work is fucking, I don't know if I can use that word on Twitch. It's a not so nice word for stupid. Like, dude, I've told you this before. Wait, can you hear me, Taj?
Yeah. I can hear you. Sorry, but, I'm texting a buddy of mine.
Sorry, I wasn't sure. All right. But so, I used to be very fucking far right. I was like a huge Ethan Ralph fan. I tuned into the kill stream every time it fucking happened. I was a massive fan of like fucking Nick Fuentes, all of those people. And I saw Destiny and like Vosh and stuff a lot, like debating people who I really like Sargon and shit. And eventually their fucking arguments started making me question my beliefs, and eventually I had to fucking sit down and analyze my values and my ideas as a person and fucking come to a different conclusion, because the shit that I thought was absolute wasn't, because people could fucking, change my perspective on it because they had more solid arguments, they had more solid ideas and like prescriptions.
Ooh, thanks for the links.
What is that?
I just linked a couple of things. I hit up Bryce for some reading material that would bolster our arguments, because Bryce was just with Endless earlier, right before you got on with Endless.
Yeah, actually. Bryce Benedict. I did anti-fascist reading literally last night. Like, I was reading, what's the guy's name? Steven something. They were writing something about like 40 ways to combat fascism, and one of the ways really is like bringing people in and talking to people. It was part of their 40, like, fuck, what was the article I was reading? Yeah. Son of a gun. Spencer Sunshine?
Even if we grant that, like, that as many people in these communities are horrible racists, right? It's in human nature to not want to view yourself that way. And so when I talk to these people, like me saying, like, denounce white supremacy before you're allowed to talk to me or my community, like, that would make anybody who doesn't think that they're racist be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're crazy, even if they are racist. But, most racists don't think that they're racist. Most, so it's just, yeah, it's complicated, and like, it sucks, I guess. That's all I was going to say. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ramble.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's, fuck. I'm getting hit by, like, I'm talking, Aston's talking to me through text right now, and he's like, yeah, you need to stop saying stupid shit. And I'm like, fair. Like, these are fair criticisms.
Hold up. What stupid shit did you say? That's my question.
Yeah,
I listened to that.
Endless was talking down to you. Like, I didn't like the way that he was talking down to you. Endless has an issue with, like I'm sure he doesn't mean to do it, but he very specifically was talking down to you during that conversation, and it did not make him look good. So, yeah.
Endless reminds me of those motherfuckers in those political Discord servers who have like one or two like rhetorical strategies, and they think they're fucking the gods of debate. Edgy comment, I'm sure, but like, it was such an aggravating conversation to watch. I'm going to edit some of it for you though, Taj, because you got to post that shit. Also, I love how I love comparing the two conversations, because I listened to the convo you and Star had a few days ago in a Star's grievance stream, and comparing the tone, comparing the like willingness to like actually hear your arguments between the two fucking conversations was insane.
Yeah, but fuck, damn it, I hate texting on this broken phone. What is this?
I don't know. Mounty made some weird meme about me.
Oh, that's the Piper Perry meme of the like black guys surrounding her on the couch before a like interracial gangbang. It's the, hold up, I can find this. Hold up.
Oh yeah, like with the one that says browsers on it.
Hold up. I can literally find this. I gotta find. Yeah, here we go. It was literally the first image when I searched her up. It's this.
What the fuck?
Right there. It's that meme.
Yeah. I saw the original version. I'm kidding.
I've seen the interesting video in question once or twice. Anyway. Yeah, no, it was a fucking brain dead conversation. I might go try to fucking argue with Endless for content's sake, because I feel like it would be interesting, but that was not productive at all.
I wouldn't even call it like,
no.
Look, I know he can be condescending. I know he can go to ad-homs.
I get it.
And I think he was holding back some of the anger. But like, I honestly believe that. But gosh, like sometimes people make these arguments from a place of like pain, from a place of like past trauma and stuff. Mm-hmm. And like, I try to be like respectful and mindful of that.
I get that. And you know, like, don't get me wrong, like obviously something hurt him in the past that's made him so stuck in his beliefs that he can't see anything beyond it. But I just like, we all have been through some shit, you know, like everybody's been through some shit. And so it's not an excuse to talk down to people, and it's not an excuse to like make you like belittle your arguments and things like that. And it's just unfortunate, because I feel like if anybody knows what it's like to be at the receiving end of the vitriol, like, it's you and me, like Taj, we've been in those communities, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like out of everybody on Twitch, Dalton aimed his entire fan base at me, you know? He aimed his entire fan base at me, and for a week straight, like, it was just hate raid after hate raid every single day. And so, like, it's not like I don't know what I'm getting myself into. And it's not like my community doesn't know. But everybody in my community's been pretty hardened, and they can handle it, you know? And so I think he's scared. So I feel bad for him because he's scared. So
I mean, I think it's a
y'all are far too sympathetic.
Well, look, I'm sympathetic in that aspect, but he was rude to me, so I'm probably not going to talk to him again. So
yeah, no, I just, as someone who's like dealt with a fair share of like trauma, both politically and otherwise, you can't motivate your entire worldview by trying to minimalize the good that other people do who have that same trauma. You can't. I'm trying to think of an example that's Twitch safe. Sorry, I don't want to get you suspended. I have a habit of doing that. Sorry. Let's say that you have some sort of trauma associated with racism, right? And you can't stand being around a person who has or platforms a racist ideology, right? Which I assume is what Endless's problem with Stardust is, because she talks with people who are racists. Wait, hold up. I am using the right pronoun, by the way, right? I don't want to use something incorrect for you.
Oh yeah, I think so.
You
I didn't
you
even
go by
pay
like
attention.
she, her, right?
Yeah.
All right. All right, just wanted to make sure. So say that that's Endless's problem with Stardust, right? That doesn't mean that what Stardust does, A, isn't important, and B, doesn't make an impact within the lines of the impact that Endless hopes to make, which I assume is like the eradication of white supremacy. It just so happens that you two go about it in different ways because you don't have you don't have as much, I don't know your personal story, but you don't have as much trauma associated with the method of outreach.
I mean, look, I think it doesn't even have to be trauma. It doesn't even have to be trauma, right? Like, I'm not saying my method is the best way. I'm not saying it's the only way. In fact, like I was saying earlier, Aiko is somebody who curates an audience and protects her audience and makes sure her audience is protected from outside spaces like that. And there's a value in that. Some people need that. But I can't do that. I can't be that content creator. I'm not somebody who's capable of that. I have to go out and I look for a fight and look for, you know, conversations with like the craziest people. And so I'm just not capable of curating a nice community for people. And so I get it. Endless wants to do that for his community, and all power to him. If you want to be like, you want to protect them and stuff like that, because that's what it seems like. He wants to protect people. You know, that's fine. But it's there are different ways to do it, and I'm sure multiple methods are only going to be better for it rather than less. So
yeah. I like the peaceful ones.
I feel like a mix between the two of your methods. I feel like a mix between your two methods is good. Like, I understand protecting your community. I feel like to some extent you would do that. Like, if Taj types something, you're not just going to let people spam the N-word at him, are you?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, right.
You know.
Like, I think there's a balance there, right? Like, you can outreach to people who might disagree with you, who you can eventually move on a few things. But you also don't have to encourage an environment that, or encourage and foster an environment that leads to harassment or leads to bullying and shit. I feel like you've done a pretty good job striking that balance. I think that people like Vosh and Destiny have done a really good job at that. Wait, are we allowed to say Mr. Stephen Bonnell's name on Twitch? I can't remember.
Yeah,
we can say his name.
Yeah, we can talk about
All right,
Nick
I wasn't
Fuentes.
sure.
We can talk about Destiny. Stephen Bonnell.
Well, I just know that streamers had to be careful with the doctorate disrespects name.
Oh, really?
Because of a tournament he was hosting. Yeah, Twitch put out like a envelope to the people who were like playing in it, basically saying like, you gotta call him like the 2-time blockbuster video game champion. If you use his name, you risk a ban or something. It's one of his fucking like memes associated with the community.
Yeah.
Sorry, I like watch a shit ton of drama alerts, so that's how I know about that.
I feel like I know too much lore than you. Here you come knowing way more lore, D. Yeah, but well,
hello, I have no life.
Where was I going with that? I feel like we talked about a lot of different things in that conversation. I'm trying to think of things that I missed out in that combo.
The only thing that I think you really fucking missed the opportunity on is when he said all Republicans are white supremacists. I think you should have pushed back there. I really think you should have.
I should push back harder with that one. Okay.
I think it can be hard in a conversation like that because somebody like Endless is trying to do all of the gotchas he can on you, and so anytime you say something, his method of Endless's method, I've realized, is to ask questions. So tell me how, prove that, you know, and things like that. And so you're talking about how multiracial groups tend to have less racism in them, right? And he's like, we've had multiracial groups forever, as if that's supposed to mean something, right? But what was it supposed to mean? That's kind of his tactic, is like he always has something to inject in there, whether it's meaningful or not, and he'll put a why in there. Why do you think that? is there proof of that? Can you prove that? And if you can't put that question there, he'll say, well, we've had that forever. Oh, we've tried that before. When technically, like, you know, these things like a lot of the things that he says aren't necessarily adding to the conversation. They're just things that he puts in there to try and get your attention and like throw you off. So, yeah.
Oh my. Yeah. There's
I
so
didn't
many
realize
things.
that until too late.
I should have pushed back on certain things. Yeah. Like they're like, yeah, we've had multiracial groups forever. I'm like, yeah, like, but things are different 200 years ago versus today, right? And he's like, no, it's the same amount of racism. I'm like, no, I'd rather live today versus 200 years ago. Like, I'm just.
Yeah, even he says, "Oh, how are people not born into slavery anymore?" Well, look, that's just his tactic. His tactic is to just ask for so much that it's hard for you to keep up with delivering that, right? And like, I think it makes having a conversation with him very hard. Like, we can objectively say that less people are born into slavery today than there were previously. We can objectively say that, like, you know, like the multiracial societies we live in today are different from the ones that we used to. Like, but he's, again, his tactic is, I don't know how to combat that. How to combat somebody going, why? Okay, well, we did this. Oh, well, we've always had this, you know. I don't know how to handle somebody who interjects like that. So, but I'm sure there's a way. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think
I feel like both of you entered also with way too much good faith for someone like Endless. And Taj, I know you have this problem a lot. You always assume that the other person wants to sit and have like a rational, reasonable conversation, when a lot of the times people like Endless, to be honest, Big Papa Fascist, all that kind of stuff, their goal isn't a reasonable conversation. Their goal is to steamroll you. I don't
make you upset.
Yeah, that's the other one. I've noticed with Endless, he was fucking.
Oh fuck!
But here's the thing. I think it, regardless of that, like, I think that, like, the only one who looked bad in that conversation was him. So it was very evident to the audience that he was talking down to you. It was very evident to him that to the audience that, you know, he was not being good faith. He kept asking for proof for everything, for things that are even like that, the things that are very obvious to the average person, right? So I think even if you were like super nice to him, and I like that about you, and I was definitely way too nice to him too, I don't think you should like look at that badly, because the only one who looks bad in that situation is him. And oftentimes I think part of the reason you kind of have to go slow with somebody like him is because of how much he interjects in your conversations, you know? So, yeah, he just looks like an asshole. So, yeah.
Thanks to other stuff.
I really was disappointed by that conversation. I really was. Because from what you were telling me, Taj, right?
I didn't even get to like
you said like Endless was at least like reasonable and stuff, that he could have like a mature, like reasonable discussion and shit. Like, I had my doubts after watching the Stardust convo, but that was fucking embarrassing. That was fucking embarrassing.
Yeah,
Also, apologies about for him, not for you. No, but that was a fucking embarrassing performance.
Yeah.
It reminded me of you remember the Twitter space you were in where the people are like, you said something about like not being 100% black or whatever, and the person's like, I hear the other 10%.
Yeah, it sounded like that. I was like kind of surprised about that, because I didn't expect them to like have certain takes like that. Some of those
After seeing him on Twitter, why not?
Like, some of those are like,
why not? I mean, he attacks Dylan Byrne like Dylan Byrne owns the KKK. Dude, he attacks Dylan Burns like Dylan owns the fucking KKK or something. It's insane.
CEO of racism, Dylan Burns. Yeah.
Well, hey, you got the neo-Nazi queen in the call with you right now, so you should be careful.
Dude, if people found any of the shit that I used to be associated with, I'm fucked.
Well,
so keep digging, it's out there.
Look, it's gonna. There's I don't know. Like everybody's got skeletons in the closet. Nobody's innocent. You know, so
once those white face
it is
pictures,
what it is.
once those white face pictures of me like come back online, I am screwed. Okay, like I'm fucked.
Thankfully, I've never done anything as awful as whiteface.
Yeah, but damn. I'm gonna have shower thoughts about that conversation. Like, I feel like they said a lot of wrong things. But
You're going to be thinking about endless in
No.
the shower.
yeah,
Look, don't think
shower
about it.
thoughts,
It's
Yeah.
not worth your time.
No, I consider him like friend adjacent, like like a friend of a friend.
Friend adjacent.
Yeah. So
I like that,
I feel like I gotta be like friendly to him. God damn, I did not expect some of those
Taj, you don't have to be friendly to everyone, bro.
It works out better.
Like when we were debating that fucking street preacher, right? You didn't have to immediately be like, "You're right. I love the Bible, my fine sir."
Wait, which street?
That's kind of cute, though. What's wrong with that?
You remember when we were in Ybor City and we were debating the street
Oh,
preacher
that
guy?
guy.
I was trying to go with my edgy atheist debate style. And you just immediately started agreeing with him on the Bible. I'm like, man, you're kind of fucking up my strategy here.
Did the audio for that video get like? Gosh dang, I took L's that day. All right, like I took the worst L I've taken with like a pro-life conservative ever on that day. That was like such a huge L on my end. I started stuttering and shit.
Hold up. Does anyone? Do you know who? What's her fucking name?
Savannah
Savannah. What's her last name?
Craven's like Craven. So she's like, I don't think she's with PragerU.
She did the Candace Owens song. That was like a Cardi B diss track.
Called Be Like Candace. Yeah. So
yeah.
So we went to the Blexit event in Tampa, and oh wait, I typed in Savannah, not Savannah Craven. Savannah. She's getting like a lot of traction online. I think Stephen Crowder did a video
she blew up
supporting her
because she was in a New York Times article about Roe v. Wade.
Oh, she's with Turning Points. Oh my god, she's 20. I feel like a cradle robber now. Yeah, so
she's not 20.
She's 20, dog. She's 20. All right, so this is one person named Savannah Craven. She's like this, like her big thing is that she's like a black woman. She's like anti-abortion. She's like anti-choice. She's like pro-life. Even Plan B is fucking an abortion in my book. So I was like debating her on it, and then like I was like, well, like I said something about like having kids by accident, and she touched my arm. She's like, if you had kids by accident, I'd have your kids. And then like I just started like I was like like that, and like I stopped. I lost the ability to like make functional sentences.
Froze for a good like 45 seconds, started giggling, and I had to fucking jump in and deal with that shit, bro.
Oh
Look,
my gosh!
You can't help it. Okay, the heart wants what it wants.
Nah, she was attractive, but like, nah, Taj, the worst part. No, and by the way, that wasn't exactly what she said. You said, "Man, someday I'd like to settle down with a nice woman and have kids of my own. I don't want to accidentally have kids though, or something." She's like, she said she touched your arm, and then she made the comment about, well, if you ever have kids, I'll gladly take them or some shit like that. It was some like weird shit. And you just fucking started giggling like a fucking schoolgirl getting asked out to prom, bro.
That was such an L.
I don't blame you, dude. I don't blame you sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it happens.
It was
That's not the
so
only time that's
unexpected.
happened though, bro. Bro, you fucking remember the lady at the DeSantis event?
Yeah, the DeSantis event. Oh,
you know who I'm talking about. I don't want to talk
the
to her.
lawyer. Oh my!
Bro, you were trying to go home with her, bro.
I should have.
Like I'm surprised you didn't just like put in a Southern accent and be like, "Ma'am, these black people."
Gosh dang, and they're all pro-life. Gosh, I'm doomed.
Yeah, no, you can't take them home. Then yeah, something happens. Something goes wrong. That wouldn't work out too well.
Yeah, like imagine like a lawyer sues you for child support. Like you're screwed. All right. Yeah. Jeez Louise. Like, yeah, me and D, like, we live so close to each other, we can do like live in-person events. And also we're in Florida, which is like the haven for conservative fucking people to just like roam about and talk about their stupid ass opinions.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Yo, you're down.
We literally met outside of CPAC this year.
Yeah. We're down to do like an in-person event if you want, Star. Like down the line, of course. I don't know if you have COVID precautions because we in Florida can't sugarcoat it. It's bad out here. But yeah, like we plan on going to. Can we? Yeah, well, I'll bring it up. Was it like the Turning Points USA? They're having some sort of conference in Tampa.
Student Action Summit in Tampa. It's one of their biggest annual conferences. Former President Donald Trump is going to be there. Don Jr. is going to be there. DeSantis, Caitlin McEnany, the press secretary, all that shit.
Wow.
And we're going to try to do a Change My Mind segment outside.
Ooh, that sounds like so much fun.
Hopefully it is.
I'm sorry if I am laggy, by the way. The only thing I have is data on my phone. My fucking Wi-Fi shut off like 30 minutes ago.
Oh, Wick, you're definitely invited. I live in a shitty house.
Can y'all hear me? Or
like,
did I lag?
You're definitely
When is
like,
this gonna happen?
I think it's in late July. When is it? TPUSA Tampa.
Wait, did you hear anything I said, or did I just lag in the middle of that?
Your Wi-Fi sucked. The Student Action Summit. That's
Sorry
it.
if I lag. Everyone.
Yeah, July 22nd.
My Wi-Fi's been fucked.
Yeah, we hear you. You're fine. You're fine. I think that's you with the crickets in the back, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm outside so I can get good signal. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
my audio is scuffed right now.
It's all good. You sound fine enough. It's called the Student Action Summit, July 22nd to 24th in Tampa. So we're probably just gonna rent out a hotel from like Friday till Sunday and just do some Change My Mind stuff. I don't know if we're gonna see if we can sneak in or not. Maybe I shouldn't have said that on stream. Nobody snitch on me. Oh, sorry. I was looking at the chat. I need to put my glasses on.
It looks like a really good event. I'm excited to go.
Oh man, I hope I hear some.
I really like these conservatives. You hope you get what?
I like their takes, and like how I was telling like Endless earlier, a lot of these people like have buy-ins, like, and it's all about their buy-in. Like you can make people like buy into like more progressive causes. You just have to like figure out their buy-in. Like I remember like one lady I was talking to, she was super pro-police during 2020, and she didn't know about Elijah McClain. All she knew about was George Floyd, and she thought George Floyd like killed a pregnant lady or something like that. But she didn't hear about like the person named Elijah McClain. If people don't remember, he's the guy. He was like a young kid out in Colorado, and I think he got like choked, or I don't know if the police like injected him with something. And this kid was like the nicest kid ever. Like, or he looks like freaking Urkel. He plays with like violin and shit.
Aww.
And like it didn't get as much traction as like George Floyd or Breonna Taylor, but the officers just like choked him for no reason. Like he was just like walking home from work from like PetSmart because he loved animals.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and like the lady, she had like this is like a massive seed of doubt, and I think probably for the first time in her life, regarding police and regarding police brutality. So these people, they can change their buy-in. Like a lot of it is literally familiarity, like you were saying. Like it's like, how familiar are you to people of color? How familiar are you to queer people? I sound like a piece of shit when I say it, but 2019 me and 2020 me had totally different stances on trans people. Like I said people's pronouns in 2019, but I didn't like believe it. I didn't have like the emotional buy-in. Then 2020 happened. Yeah. I met like a lot of trans people because I think I knew like one or two before 2020. And then I was like, oh shit. And then like I did like more research and I was like, oh shit, this shit's like fucking valid. Then I saw this one like YouTube video where Blair White said that like a non-binary person wasn't truly trans, and the person started crying, and I almost started crying.
So sad.
That was like a mega buy-in for me. But like to say that, like, yeah, like these people have always existed and there's always been hate towards them. I'm like, yeah, because like people's like lived experience and information are different. It's like a slow ebb and flow. There's gonna be a little bit of pushback when we have progress, but I still hope that progress wins. That's like the most peaceful route for change, in my opinion.
You not being fully pro-trans and respecting pronouns is one thing. Bruh, in 2018, I tried to talk someone out of being trans.
Oh my God.
I've never gone that far.
Oh no.
Dude, this is like, when I tell you I was fucking far right, I mean it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like, I'm telling you, that's why I despise Endless's take on fucking talking people out of it, because now I honestly think I'm a little bit further left than Taj. I don't know if I'd consider myself a leftist anymore. I think I just might be a very far left liberal.
Yeah, I think that I'm super progressive liberal. And you know what? Like there's so much shit that we can, I don't know, there's just like a lot. That
I mean, even you can sell people on personal liberty, right? Like, let's say they're socially conservative on every other part. Like, if you can sell people on personal liberty, then they start to come around, really, you know? It doesn't matter, even if they're the most socially conservative person in the world. Do you think that people should have the liberty to live the life that's, like, best for them in a way that doesn't hurt anybody else, but is, like, enriching for them? And, like, anybody who believes in personal liberty, and most of these conservatives do, that, you know, that they're very strong believers in it, then you can definitely start selling them on that.
Yeah, exactly. Just change the buy-in. People have to realize that things like that bigotry and oppression, it will find a way to fuck your life too. Like, you can be like the most transphobic cis woman, but if you're a little bit too tall and if you don't look feminine enough, then you can get harassed when you go to the bathroom down the line, because like people are afraid of trans women going to the bathroom that coincides with their gender. When integration happened, there are so many public swimming pools out there. Like, a lot of cities had way more public swimming pools, and then like integration happened. Integration, sorry, happened, and then like you see like a lot of public swimming pools get shut down because white people don't want their kids swimming with black kids. Okay, now your kid can't swim. Congratulations. Schools are getting defunded because, I don't want my kids going to school, the black kids, the black culture, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now all the white kids that can't go to a private school are fucked. Good job.
I don't want little Timmy going with little Tyrone.
Yeah, like you don't want people to have abortions for whatever fucking reason, for whatever moral gray area that your religion has regarding abortion, because I think it's a fucking gray area for a lot of Christians, or at least it should be considered gray area. And okay, now crime's gonna go up in 16 years. That's a lot of kids, and if we don't have social programs for those kids, then like they're just gonna grow up in a society that doesn't seem to love them, so they're not gonna show love back like that. Like, whenever you fuck someone else over, like it fucks you over too. There's a cost to violence. There's always a cost to violence. And like people just don't realize that. It's kind of fucking annoying. Sorry for ranting.
Nah, you're all good. Nah, another thing that I think a lot of people completely fail to understand when it comes to political violence, I don't know Endless's take on this, so I don't want to assume. But Endless is an anarchist, right? So I assume he's okay with political violence, right?
Yeah, but yeah,
I assume he'd be okay with a bunch of socialists doing some fucked up shit, right? But ultimately, a lot of violence just ends up hurting causes. You look at things like BLM in the short term. Yeah, they did a lot of really good things, and they accomplished a decent amount. But if you also look at like the long term stuff, that bill that was like getting super hyped up in the Senate went nowhere. If you look at the ideas behind like a socialist uprising or something, okay, you have your little uprising, you're going to all go to jail, and then there's no more advocates for this ideology. I don't understand the whole fucking we got to use violence to reach the goal that we have in mind, because it always seems to fucking backfire, or it always seems to like not connect logically to the broader goal.
Yeah. And I don't mean to, yeah, exactly. I don't mean to sound rude, but there's a lot of people that talk this, and like I don't trust them to win in a conflict with people that have been like training for things like insurrection since the fucking Tea Party days, if not before. Like it just doesn't sound realistic. It doesn't sound like it's based in reality, and a lot of people can get hurt. And like for the people that are more like higher class, like people like Keffels, right? I imagine someone like her would want something like some sort of like armed revolution one day. Like, I don't think Keffels would want to join an armed revolution. I think she would want the blacks and the poors to do the fighting for her. And things like,
oh my god,
shit like that pisses me off. It really is people like that. It's like,
No. Bro, you know the fucked part about that, right? We've talked about this in the car, and this is my most like conservative take.
Fuck.
Dude, lefties cannot do fucking shit against the right. Bro, I went to a protest, like a counter protest against the Proud Boys once, right? Bro, there were a bunch of fucking like 13, 14-year-old blue-haired teenage girls there, and you have me fucking 6'5" D&D there, the only fucking like real dude outside of some old ass black guy there. What the fuck would they have done against these like decently tall fucking armed guys? Fucking nothing. I don't understand this. The whole fucking let's rise up and fight is never going to work. It's going to result in more harm than good. And ultimately, the only fucking conclusion it comes to is the more heavily armed, more trained side, which is the right, is going to win.
I mean, even then, like, I would say that, you know, a lot of the, you know, the terminally online people, left or right, that you know, say, oh, revolution's the way and uprising is the way. Both of them are out of shape, but you're right. Like, like the right is just more well versed with guns. They may both be like fat and like, you know, eat pizza for 3 meals a day, but like one of them knows how to use a gun. One of them is probably doesn't. You know, so
yeah, and like
Endless degraded you, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Endless.
Uh-oh. Should I get out of here?
I don't think that's a good thing, Taj.
Yeah,
Taj.
No,
the whole conversation seems to not be. All right, just if it gets dicey, let me know and give me mod. I'll hop in immediately. I'm not afraid to ban a motherfucker.
It should be fine.
I am power hungry. Test me.
It should be fine. I think that like, yo, Wick is right. I said this quote the other day. Oh my god, the fascist tools will never dismantle the fascist house. All right, like exactly. I trust you.
By the way, I love Wick.
I trust Endless to not do it.
I love Wick.
I trust him, and like,
yeah, no, I don't think he would do a hate raid.
That's exactly that. It's 1,000%. Yeah, fuck. Fuck, that shit fucking burns me up. Yeah, I want to do as much as I can to prevent fucking like armed conflict, fucking like people in buildings getting fucking bombed and shit like that. Yep. Unless you're right, that's it. The Master's tools will never dismantle the Master's house. Oh, thanks, Omega's Shinran. Oh, Omega Shinran Dragon, thank you. I know, yeah. Unless I think it is. I think stuff like that is happening, but things can be escalated too. Like we can 10x. Like the violence can be 10x in this country. The armed conflicts between different like political sects can be. I don't know if there's armed conflicts between different political sects at the moment, but like say like if there's like actual like well there is, but if there's like way more like leftist and right winger like outwardly fashy conflict, I don't want that. That makes the quality of life for everybody go lower. And it goes to scary places, man. I don't want it where I said this earlier in chat before you got in here. I don't want people like Keffels to support things like this, and then like the black people and the poor people like go out there, like lose life and limb, get locked up for long periods of time, and then people like Keffels and fucking Mike from PA and fucking Hassan skate off after just like egging this shit on. And I don't want to say Vosh too, but like certain things like
okay, that. Vosh is guilty of this. I like Vosh, I really do, but his whole fucking mentality of ultimately things have to lead to violence is fucking stupid. I hate that. I really do.
Yeah, I'm bringing on Endless real quick. All right, let me see. Add friends DM.
Oh, is he gonna want to be in here with me in here?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he knows that you're in. All right, let me see if I can go back to your. 1 second.
I think ultimately, though, the whole political violence thing is stupid.
Add friend. That's it. All right,
I really do.
You. Don't block me. Better take my friend request. Yeah, like
what?
No, I'm adding Endless because you just want to jump in real quick. Yeah, can you hear me? Yellow.
I think his internet must be going out.
Oh, mine?
You good?
Yeah. Y'all can't hear me?
No. I think D&D.
Oh.
No, I see Taj. His icon keeps lighting up when he's not speaking, and I'm confused.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Okay.
All right.
How do I crop a photo in Photoshop?
So add Endless. So I'm gonna add Endless. All right. If everyone can be civil, everything moves faster when everybody's friends.
Yes.
Oh yeah. If I feel like off or anything, I'll move out of the call. So
I'll do the same if I feel like I'm gonna get too contentious.
No, I think everybody's fine.
I just don't have a very high bullshit tolerance.
Hey yo, what's up, Endless? Thanks for the raid, man.
Yeah. Hell yeah, no problem. So, I'm sorry. I could not like, because I saw the fascist tools will not be used to tear down the fascist house thing, and it's like the actual quote is the master's tools will not be used to tear down the master's house, and it gets into the thing that I was asking you before, where it's like, okay, if they've had like 600 plus years in proximity to us to get used to us, of us doing everything from giving them our children, our breast milk, our eggs, our, tissues for medical research, et cetera, if they've just been taking all that shit, even if we've been giving it to them and everything, then what more do we need to give? And how long is the timeline on that for them to start viewing us as human? That's number one. Number two, what are the qualifications of the people trying to do this work? And number three is, because I asked that dude Briss before, why are we prioritizing outreach to neo-Nazis above protection of marginalized communities that they target? And then finally, which is just kind of a tangential point, but like,
of course,
why do we not understand capitalism as its own system of oppression? Because it necessarily needs two classes to operate: the people who own everything and the people who rent from the people who own everything. And like, I don't get how we get to an equitable society using capitalism. But yeah, I guess we can move from there. If you got, I know that was like a lot of points. I kind of like just galloped
you might have to repeat them. I'm gonna go with the first one, talking about like how much longer.
Hold up. I have one point that I already want to respond to.
All right, please make it civil.
So about your point about outreach to neo-Nazi communities, I don't think that it should be prioritized over protection, but I don't think it should be viewed as a waste of time. I used to be very, very far to the right, but people like Destiny or Vosh having like discussions and arguments about issues that I used to be very far to the right on legitimately helped push me towards the left. I did have to do a lot of the work myself. I had to read a lot of literature myself, but that initial push got me out of this horrible toxic mindset, hating myself for being Jewish.
Right. If you don't mind me asking, what actual debate was it?
Well, from Destiny, the first one that got me thinking about the whole racial issues and stuff being really idiotic was the JonTron one. From Vosh, I believe it was his second debate with Sargon that made me begin to look into the left a little bit more.
It's important to also realize that it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes time for people to start changing their views.
Yeah, I get that, but it's like, didn't you just say you were Jewish?
Yes, I am Jewish, and I fucking
through
the alt-right pipeline began to be like, oh fuck, Jewish people are responsible for this. I'm responsible for like the destruction of the white race and stuff. Like, I started buying into all this fucking bullshit because the right was the group reaching out to me when I was like 13 or 14. They were the group that was willing to engage with me, that was willing to build those like throw out that line to pull me onto the ship.
With the Gamergate stuff?
Whereas the left, Gamergate is exactly how I got in. I don't want to fucking
demon SJWs. And then like you didn't know, you weren't
these demon
SJWs, you didn't know them. So you saw the worst of the worst. Probably, right?
Yeah, you see the worst of the worst, and that was my only view of the left because that was what was the loudest.
Let me just make sure I'm understanding this correctly, because you said the Gamergate thing was...
Yeah, Gamergate was a huge influence.
Okay. So the source of your privilege was how you got into it, and then the source of your oppression was how you got out of it, right?
Hold up, you got to repeat that. Sorry, my connection is kind of shaky.
So you're they them. Did you identify as a male?
Yes, I was like the fucking proudest cis straight person at that point. Yeah.
So what they were saying appealed to you?
Not necessarily appealed. It was the only message that fucking was out there. It was the only message that was spreading through the communities that I was in. Like, I was the fucking Xbox kid and shit.
Right, but it had to appeal to you on some level if it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, otherwise it would have just been in the ether. Like, otherwise...
I feel like the appeal of it came a lot from the like edginess and stuff because I was a fucking young teenager.
Right, of course, we all were at one point. But the thing I'm asking you is, if you're telling me that being Jewish helped you realize that that wasn't the wave, then like
it wasn't you're Jewish though.
Yeah, no, that's not what I said at all.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm saying like even I'm never going to claim to be as marginalized as another community. I don't think Jewish people are as marginalized.
Yeah, but before you do that, the important thing to note is that you actually belong to a marginalized community.
Yes, I acknowledge that. I'm also
white men don't.
Pointed out, I'm non-binary now, and I'm fucking I'm pansexual.
But white men don't. And you said yourself you had to do the work, and being a part of a minority group makes you more amenable to being opposed to white supremacy, especially as a Jew.
I don't necessarily think it made me amenable to the change.
No, if you think that, that's the thing, like a lot of these groups, like it doesn't matter what minority or marginalized group you're part of if you're part of that group, right? That group has given you a sense of community, and that's a lot of the times the reason why people are part of those communities, and then they get those beliefs afterwards.
Right, I get that, because that's the main thing that white supremacists do is they enter niche communities to recruit. But the question that I still am hazy on is, what are we giving them that's they see as more valuable than, first of all, white privilege, but also the sense of community that they get from these people?
Okay, hold up.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Star. I apologize.
Eventually, the right, there are a couple of things that happen. Eventually, the right turns on itself is one thing that happens. Another thing is that people feel the only reason people stick in those far right communities is because they feel like they go anywhere else and they're going to be ostracized. They're going to be, shunned immediately. So when they get a group of people that doesn't immediately do that to them before they've done anything wrong, then they're surprised. They have to start rethinking things, right? And
can I ask some clarifying questions?
Sure.
So when you say that they're in those groups and they feel like they can't go anywhere else, are you referring to mainstream society? Because I know we said this before, but like there's hella overlap between like regular normal society and white supremacists because of the
Can you define what a mainstream society is?
You can walk through mainstream society and still be a terminally online right winger.
Right.
And sequester yourself into those spaces. It doesn't matter if you function and go to the grocery store. You can still be somebody who's.
I'm not just talking about the grocery store though. I'm talking about acquiring homes, loans for homes. I'm talking about
that doesn't change whether they're still whether they can acquire, that we know, you and I know, that they may be able to do these things that other people can't. But what they see in their heads is that they are alone. Even if they own a house, even if they have opportunities that other people don't have, what they see is they see that they are alone.
Right. So makes the question even more confounding to me, which is that if they already have everything, including a community, then like this is the confusing part, because we keep saying if they're exposed to us, that humanizes us, but all the evidence would say to the contrary. They literally brought us here in the first place. How would they not have ever been around us?
Too. So they want to be humanized too. They want to be able to come into a place and not feel like they are going to be made into a monster immediately. And oftentimes, like I said, these communities, they turn on themselves. Nobody lasts forever.
But so here's the other weird thing. Number one, how would they not be able to just like make another account to where no one knows that it's them from before and that they were involved in those things? But number two, hold on, wait a minute.
That's an easy answer, and you're going to stack up like 10 arguments. Let me quickly respond to this.
I was going to respond to the second half of the argument that she just made. Can I respond to that really quick before you go?
Go ahead.
1 second.
Okay. So you said that they're, number one, why can't they just make a side account? But number two, like I said, we've had 600 plus years with these people. Whether they're terminally online, whether they're judges, whether they're lawyers, whether they're whatever, they have seen us and known us and been around us to the point where we speak their language. A lot of our culture comes from their culture. We've lived in direct proximity to them since they brought us here. So when I ask you, when you say it takes time, right? It's like the Martin Luther King thing where it's like, cool, we don't have that time. They're already killing us. All the stuff that you're saying would happen if we shun these people is stuff that they're literally already doing. And the dude I talked to earlier tonight said, what stops them from just paying lip service to these talking points so that they can infiltrate our communities? And it was a mighty fine question, because at the end of the day, when you're doing the stuff like this on the internet, you have to take them at their word. You literally have to take them at their word. You have to take them at their word that they're terminally online.
Nobody is putting in the work like that to just infiltrate our community. They either will they'll show who they are. They'll show who they are. Nobody on the right is that competent to even be doing that. People who commit these acts of violence are, again, people who are, not only are they like isolated and they're like they're just like they're by themselves, but also there's something wrong with them mentally, and they feel like there's nothing there for them to live for. When we talk about people infiltrating communities, at least in the online space, in most cases with like the terminally online right wingers, they do not have enough patience to stick around and infiltrate and recruit from your community. If anything, they'll show who they are, they'll get banned, they'll lose interest is usually what happens, and they'll leave. Or there are like a ton of different things. Maybe there's going to be the occasional person, but again, they always show who they are.
Okay. So here's the thing, because they don't just recruit, they also dox people. I'm sure you know that.
I'm very well aware of that. If there's anybody who knows the consequences of engaging with these communities, it is me. So
right, for sure.
One thing about the doxing element as well, you asked.
You had another point. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was saying you had another point earlier that you wanted to say. So if you
I'm just rewording it to fit in with what you're saying. Right. But with the doxing thing, right, one of the reasons that a lot of people feel pressure, including myself for a while, to stay within these like really vile, awful communities is because one of the things that a lot of these communities do is they gather information on the people so that they can attack them if they feel like they're betraying the group or betraying the cause and stuff. I mean, if you look up some of my old aliases, my fucking personal information's out there, fucking photos of me as a child are out there and stuff in dox bins somewhere, because I was a part of these like far right spaces and communities. That's a huge reason for people to stay because they feel like
but I hate it when that happens.
The new safety net. They need a new community to like rally behind them, provide them with some level of support while they're trying to like improve as a person or better their beliefs. And I think that does happen. I don't think everyone can change. Like I don't think for example,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Every groiper, if they heard a good argument, is going to change. But I feel like a lot of them can and will if they're not only presented with good arguments, but they're presented with a good community to fall back on when they start experiencing the repercussions for having been a part of such like a hateful community and group.
That's fair.
Apologies for any of the stuttering and stuff. My mind's going faster than I can speak.
Hey, it's fucking like almost 2 a.m. I don't know about y'all. I just finished streaming for like 3-something hours.
Damn.
Like, but so here's the thing. Yet again, it's a thing where it's like all that is true and valid, right? Like, assuming that these people are staying exclusively out of fear of reprisal from the people that they interact with, wouldn't they just end up making another account anyway? Like, wouldn't that happen regardless of whether you talk to them or not?
No. They need to have a place where they think that they're not going to be immediately cast out of. That's number one. If they feel like they're going to be immediately cast out of any place, why even bother making another account? Why even bother reaching out?
Well, you don't have to. Well, that's what I'm saying is that you can literally be anyone on the internet, and then anonymity is like baked into the cake. So like,
yeah, but they are who they are, right? They want people to look at them for who they are,
right? And if they are wanting to change their ways to achieve that, then, and obviously on some level, if we're talking about these people, we know that they keep information on people and they dox people. They would almost necessarily have to do that to keep themselves and their family members safe. Because what happens when they go, hey guys, this whole like white supremacy thing was cool, but I'm out now. Stardust talked me out of it.
Well, it wouldn't happen like that. It doesn't happen immediately like that.
No, and I don't think
in a perfect world
you can be talked out of it either.
Not even in a perfect world does it work like that.
So here's why I'm confused, because just to be sure, you said that the whole point is to humanize yourself to these people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I am already confused because we've been trying that as Black people for like 600 years and it hasn't worked. But assuming that's the case, like, what's the goal beyond that? If the goal is to have them leave that community, then they're putting themselves in danger.
The goal is my only goal in this is humanization. And the reason why that is my only goal is because humanization can lead to a bunch of different effects. Right? Now, one of those effects, you're right, could be people leaving the community. But there are going to be a lot of people who don't leave that community. What humanization does do for people who stay in those communities is it changes the way that those communities talk about the issues. And I've had messages from people within those communities I've had people reach out to me and say, the way that you guys have interacted with our communities has changed the way that we talk about minorities and the way that we talk about trans people. It may not be a lot, but if you can bring the temperature down in a lot of these communities, if you can bring the temperature down in these communities where like it's like a very radical and people are doomering about their future, that does a lot to reduce like potential harm, basically. So my only goal is humanization. I'm not talking about even making people walk away. If
Right.
walk away, that's
See,
great.
okay.
But I'm trying to bring the temperature down. Right?
I know that. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not taking anything away from that. But like when you say humanization thing, because I'm looking at chat right now too, and Death of Certainty is saying we've made mega progress in 600 years. But like, if I Google Angola, Louisiana prison right now, what am I going to see in Google Images?
You're probably going to see a lot of incarcerated African Americans.
It looks like a plantation over there, right?
It's a plantation.
It's a plantation.
Why?
That's it.
Because slavery wasn't fully abolished under the 14th Amendment. I think all of us right now.
It was the 13th Amendment.
Fuck.
13th, yeah.
Is the 14th Amendment women's right to vote?
Mm-mm.
Fuck.
It's all good. They're bullshit anyway. They don't mean anything.
Look, I am not disagreeing with you that there is still slavery existing in this world, and it's still existing in way too many places. Right. I don't disagree with you on that. What I would say is that I think we would be blind to say that things have not gotten objectively better than they used to be.
In what way?
For women's rights, for minorities' quality of life. Now, it's not where it needs to be. Don't get me wrong, it's not where it needs to be, but it's better than where it used to be.
I don't know. I'm a little confused on that one. So
just to pick up on.
Are people born in plantations?
No, but we have a school to prison pipeline. You talked about it the first time we had.
You're so right about that. You are so right about that. We have a school to prison pipeline, but people are not born into plantations, right?
Not de jure, but de facto.
In the U.S.
Not de jure, but de facto, even in the U.S. Because if right now I was born to a single parent home with one mother that had to work like 12 hours a day, and the only way for me to feed my siblings was to sling.
No.
Right.
We all acknowledge that there are factors like that put minority communities in a disadvantage, and I think we can all agree we don't want those factors there anymore, right? Like everyone can agree.
This is the thing, right? Is because when
better, it used to be that not only was it that it used to be that children like as young as the age of like 8, right? We're working, and they used to work in really, really horrible conditions.
It's still like that, though.
No, but it's better than it used to be. We can acknowledge, we can 100% say that things are not where we want them to be, but we can 100% say also that they are not as bad as they used to be.
But it gets back into incremental territory. Who was it? I think Wick.
If you're against incrementalism, then that's like a different conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I would assume that you guys would be. Right.
I think that incrementalism might be the only way.
Because Wick quoted Malcolm. It's not. Like, that's why all the people from the civil rights movement were kind of upset about that, especially if we're going to quote Malcolm X. We should understand his points of view. The main quote he said, "You don't stab me in the back 8 inches and then pull the knife out 6 and call that progress. Progress is when you pull the knife out, dress and heal the wound, and then actually do restorative justice." So when you say that even though we still have slavery, even though we still have colonial occupying military forces as the police, even though we still have a discriminating justice system, even though we still have a biased legal system and biased law, like government, it's better because less children work for less hours. It just doesn't. It sounds weird to me.
And less dangerous environments.
People
okay, hold on.
It's not. I mean,
it's
so endless,
right?
Endless.
So okay, hold on.
Bank accounts. That wasn't the case 100 years ago. Women are allowed to vote. Wasn't the case 100 years ago. like trans people are at least acknowledged.
That's true.
Like gay people are at least acknowledged, right? At least they don't get like burned to the stake again. Like, because I think they used to kill gay people a few hundred years ago, not excluding the 80s, of course. But
if anyone wants to know where the term, if anyone wants to know what the F slur comes from, I believe it was
sticks.
I think it, yeah, but wasn't it also the practice of like putting a queer person inside of, I think it was a rug or something, and then lighting it on fire?
Look,
I've heard that from a lot of my UK friends.
I'm not saying that things can't get better. We need to keep working to make things better. But it would be completely blind for us to not acknowledge the ways that things have improved.
So, and here's why I'm confused, because even in the increments that we're talking about, did that come from us humanizing ourselves, or did that come from direct action?
Do you think that people were willing to give rights to people that they didn't see as human?
No, that's why we had to fight for them.
Yeah, so it takes multiple methods.
Okay, hold up, Endless. I
kind of feel like we started fighting because we exhausted all other options. Like, I kind of feel like people.
No, it takes multiple methods. It's never one method alone that gets.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But it always ends with direct action, does it not? Like, we got the right to vote because we rioted for 2 weeks. Speaking about black people.
Not necessarily. There are a lot of times where political violence actually sets people back.
Which times?
I mean, you can see it even today with with the even though we had minimal rioting with BLM, the rioting that did happen made the approval rate of BLM go down significantly.
Okay, so this is why this conversation gets so weird, is because when we're talking about white supremacy and hating black people, it's not black people's job to advocate for our humanity. We literally just
it is. I'm not saying it's your job. I'm not saying it's anybody else's job.
Then why would you say that we did a bad job? Like, why would you say we set our own move? See, this is like why I'm trying really hard not to get emotionally charged.
You were putting words in my mouth.
Misrepresenting.
Hey, okay, wait a minute.
So what I would say,
you said political violence. You said political violence
can sometimes set us back. Yes, and that is not. And
then you specifically quoted BLM, right?
Right.
So you're saying
you wanted an example. Did you ask for an example or not?
I did.
Yes, you asked for an
example.
And
it's not a good example. It's not a good example.
It is a good example. You can look at
Endless. It is a perfect example if you look at data of like approval in the very early stages of the movement.
Can I ask you guys a very, very serious question?
Wait a minute. Before we go forward, because I was in the middle of making a point, and I would like to finish making my point. So again, what I was saying is we can look at this, and we can look at it even today at different movements. I am not saying that black people or brown people or any people have to work on humanizing themselves for other people.
Right.
All I know is what I am good at and what I am doing. And I think there's plenty of value in people doing other things all the time, right?
Right.
So people can do what they want, and I'm never going to demand other people enter spaces that I enter and interact with people that I interact with. All I know is I know what I am good at. I know what I can walk away from and know I made some sort of result there, and that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Nobody else has to do it.
The reason why I said that was a bad example is because what month is it? Pride Month, right?
Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. How do we get Pride Month? Stonewall, right?
Yes, the Stonewall riots. I think everyone's familiar with that.
Okay. Did they set their movement back by doing that, or was that how they achieved their equality?
Well, no, I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily no, because there again, you can look at like a violence in history. You can look in different countries, right? And it's set people back. We can look at individual.
Okay. What about the Civil Rights Act? Do you think that happened because of what happened after Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination?
I know that there was rioting, yes, but
there was 2 weeks worth of rioting until they gave us what we asked for. What about women's suffrage?
women's suffrage actually, this is something that we've talked about actually. Violence done by the women's rights movement actually set women back. People thought they were fucking crazy. If you look at England, there's a woman who threw herself in front of the royalty that were passing through, I guess. And there's like all of this violence that happened in England for the women's rights movement, and because of that, it actually set them back.
So here's when you say that, it's like set them back to whom? And are we acknowledging the political violence of the state that they're reacting directly to, or are we just acting like their political violence happens in a vacuum?
I'm not saying it happens in a vacuum. No, I mean, obviously, there are things that cause political violence to happen. But again, let's talk about political violence does not necessarily mean that it's going to result in good outcomes. There are plenty of examples of political violence actually making things harder, setting people's movements back, making things take longer to get.
All of the freedoms and rights that we enjoy in this chat were the direct result of direct action, though. So it's like when you say that and you talk about women's suffrage, but all of us, I'm assuming all of us in this have worked or do work full-time jobs, yes?
I used to. I stream full-time now.
Okay. That was the product of what? Haymarket what? The Haymarket bombing.
Oh,
right.
Hold up.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
What happened in August? Right. Yeah. What happened August 25th, 1921?
1921. Was that the Pinkertons?
The Battle of Blair Mountain.
Blair Mountain. Okay.
It was the Battle of Blair Mountain. Do you know who started that political violence?
Coal mine workers, right?
No, the state did, because the coal miner workers went on strike, and it got so bad that the state had to call the National Guard in and eventually the army. And the only reason why the violence stopped is because the miners didn't want to fight against their former World War I veterans. So when you say that political violence sets people's movements back, all the freedoms that you enjoy were the direct result either of a reaction to political violence or political violence itself. So it's cool. And like I said, I'm not taking anything away from you guys deciding to reach out to these communities and attempt to humanize yourself. I am not convinced.
My goal isn't humanization. My goal is presenting a counter to their arguments. Because I don't think humanization helps too much depending on what side of the right you're on. Like, I think Stardust would probably be the most effective against like the younger people who are like sort of trying to determine an ideology that they want to agree with. I feel like Star does a good job at presenting her ideology, presenting another ideology, and how the two differ. But for someone like myself, my goal isn't humanization of myself or my ideology. My goal is the combatment of far right ideas.
Knocking down
things like all gay people being groomers. I'd like to like to combat the misinformation. So Stardust and I have very different approaches and opinions to that. But
I have some opinions on that as well. But I don't know.
What are your thoughts there? Go ahead.
So, see, I probably have done a really poor job of explaining this, but like I've been a musician since I was 11. I've been involved in the music scene since I was 14, playing punk and metal. So I have been in rooms with people like Jason Tankersley, people like Paul Wagner, people like Rick Indy, people like Steve Smith, all these people who are prominent neo-Nazis. And I don't just mean terminally online neo-Nazis. I mean people who are shooting roids, shooting guns, practicing martial arts. They're organized. They're in groups like Keystone Skinheads, Keystone United, I think they're called now. Maryland Skinheads, the Wolves of Vinland from Virginia, like all these tri-state organizations. And the cynic in me, from having dealt with those people, and the people that follow them, as well as everything that I've learned historically, both in reading books and talking to my grandmother and my grandfather and, you know, my stepfather and stuff, is that these people know. A lot of them know and don't care. And for the most part, even if they don't know and they find out, it's not necessarily that they're misinformed. It's like what Stardust is saying. They're part of a community. So you have to present them something that is more valuable to them than the community that they think that they gain benefits from. And and it's not to, that's not to shit on. I'm not saying that what you're doing is wrong or like stupid or anything. I hope it doesn't come across that way. I'm just saying that like your effort might be better spent creating community with the people you share. Because if we're talking about long-term goals, protecting marginalized community is my goal. Because I understand at the end of the day, the choice is theirs as to whether or not they want to not be into some funny shit. And it would be very easy for them to just pretend they're not into it, to like hang around and get information on people or whatever. But like, yeah, that's generally my opinion on that. I wouldn't say that it's like doing nothing. Like, I feel like that would be a stretch. That'd be kind of fucked up to say. But like, I feel like you're going to exhaust yourself pretty quickly going that route when it would be cool to just like, because this is the type of content that I want to see from marginalized people in this community that I think would be beneficial to people who want to leave these communities, as well as keeping our communities safe and benefiting our communities. It, right, is me just writing about
I can counter what you were saying earlier.
Sure.
There are several examples within history that we can look at where violence did not serve us, right? I mean, even again, we talked about BLM, we can talk about January 6th, right? How much did that set people back? People who thought that here's the thing, they thought they were justified. They thought they were justified, right?
They did. They certainly did.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, the French Revolution, that also didn't work out too well. So, I mean, like, look.
I feel like the French Revolution worked out pretty well for the proletariat.
No, it didn't. It did not. It did not. It was it handed over power to Napoleon, basically. I mean,
that's true, but they got rid of the people who were exploiting them initially, and
but
also
a lot of fucking people died. Not just the people exploiting them. A lot of fucking people who were in the proletariat died.
That's true, but that wasn't as a they died for not good reasons. They died for calling people by the wrong title. It was really batshit crazy, right?
And so that set people back. And so again, I understand where you're. Let me finish what I'm saying, okay? Because I let you finish what you're saying. Okay, so I understand where you're coming from. You're saying that you've seen people and they have to make that decision for themselves. That's fine. And you're talking about people in person. That's fine. There's a reason I keep my goals with the terminally online right-wing community. I understand that community. I know what I'm doing with them. And it's not like I don't know the risks of engaging with them. I'm not saying that other people have to do what I have to do. But if there's anybody that knows what it's like to get the entirety of their ire directed at them, it's me. I have had it happen to me. People don't know what a hate rate is because people don't know what a hate rate is because I have had like 200 to 300 people directed at my chat.
So have I.
Just for a hate rate, right?
So have I.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Then you should know, right, that when you stick it out, right? You stick it out. Your community gets very strong, and my community is very strong, and they can handle it. And I'm not saying that
you also have people who say the N-word in your community, Stardust.
No, I don't. I do not.
You don't?
I do not. No.
You don't think so?
I do not. No.
Stardust, you remember who you're talking to, right? You know I have receipts, right?
Yeah, I know you. If you have receipts, then tell me about them, and I'll ban them. I will ban them.
Okay. Because Jason Society talked about it, but it's like
Jason Society. The person that he screenshotted is somebody who's never spoken in my chat, and I ban them immediately.
Okay. So number one, when you're talking about political violence, when I'm talking about like just like the political violence that has typically happened in America, when it comes to marginalized people in America, we're not talking about America.
We're talking about history. History is not just America.
Right, but we don't
America's
live in
what? How many years old? How old is the rest of the world?
Okay, how old are you and what country do you live in, Stardust?
I mean, I'm 30 and I live in America. That doesn't mean I discount all of history.
Okay, but also, why in the fuck would you compare busting windows to wheeling out guillotines?
Because it's the same thing. Basically, at the end of the day, you can
property
look
damage is the same as murdering people.
But if you want to let me finish,
go for it.
It's the same mechanism, right? Violence sets people back. It sets their movements back.
You're saying that, first of all, that
and
busting
I would like those
windows
receipts, by the way. I would like those receipts.
The Jason Society screenshot.
When the Jason Society screenshot is bullshit because that person's never spoken in my chat. We looked at them. Testicle Johnson responded to that and showed that there is no log of that person speaking in my chat, and we banned them.
There's also that video that Fluff made, which was pretty cool.
The video,
but also,
that video that Fluff made is majority of the people in those comments are literally POC lefties. So good one there, my dude.
Do you need to be a white supremacist or no?
I mean, they're not white supremacists. They're making jokes.
White supremacist jokes?
Are they white supremacist jokes talking about getting a taco?
Wasn't he? Was he talking about getting a?
He's talking about goose stepping to get a taco.
Yeah, goose stepping to get a. Who goose stepped? Stardust.
Oh yeah, because we can't make a joke about goose stepping.
I thought the
Why
goose
would
stepping thing
you?
had to do
Especially in
with
the
the hot
context
dog.
of me criticizing you for talking to Nazis. Nobody in my chat does that kind of stuff.
Because it's ridiculous.
You have a different, wait, but you guys have different chat communities. Like,
I mean,
like comparing like Destiny's to like Hassan Piker.
Also, but also,
like,
hang on, because I really want to get into how busting out windows is the same as cutting people's heads off. Can you explain that to me?
Busting out a window. It's not just busting out a window, right? It's burning down businesses, right? And businesses that people spent their entire lives working to create. And now because
they don't have
those
insurance.
Businesses, wait a minute, I'm not fucking finished. Just because so they spent their entire lives working to build those businesses, and now even if they have insurance and they can do something with that insurance, the insurance company itself is not going to be as willing to cover people in that community because they know what's happened there. It hurts the community overall more.
That's called white supremacy, Stardust.
It's not white supremacy when it's a building burned down, a bunch of buildings burned down in an area, and an insurance company assesses that maybe this is not a good idea for us to cover.
The reason why they assess that is because white supremacy exists.
It's not because white supremacy. It's because people burn down things.
Why did they burn it down?
It doesn't matter why they burn them down.
I think it's kind of important if we're talking about political violence.
Look at it from the scope of the insurance company.
Are we caring more about the insurance company or the marginalized people?
I mean, the marginalized people are affected by that. So do you really care about them when they can't make futures for themselves?
They are not. Stardust, first of all, in these communities, the marginalized people don't own anything. We've already talked about that.
No, that's not necessarily true.
That's true like 99% of the time.
Some places, that's true, sure. But there are a lot of businesses that are affected by those that are owned by marginalized groups that are affected.
So here's the thing, because I literally live stream from a protest. I've been going to protests forever. I've been in the middle of riots and stuff like that. There's literally a spoken policy a lot of time where if it's for, let's say, for example, someone gets murdered by police, it's a black person that gets murdered by police, the people that are out there will go out of their way to protect black businesses. I've seen this. It's been documented.
You've seen that. I'm glad that you've seen that.
It's not even just that I've seen. Can I finish, Stardust?
Everywhere. That's not the case everywhere. I'm glad that your experience, your experience is not reflective of the entirety of the experience as a whole.
But it kind of is, though.
It's not. It's not. I've been to my protest back in my day too.
Back in your day.
Yes, I'm old.
Which protest?
I was in DC, so there were.
Oh, you were in DC, so you're at the you're at the protest. Was that 2020?
It was back when I was younger, so it was about like 6-7 years ago, I would say. I was there when Black Lives Matter first handcuffed themselves to the White House fence. One of my friends was the leaders of that group, and I was there to see that happen. Did
you happen to see an interview where a reporter directly asked one of the people in the crowd that were rioting, at least in 2020, about some of the private black-owned businesses in the area, and he directly said out of his mouth, if they get destroyed, we'll help rebuild them.
Well, that's all great, but like, but in 2020, and that's fine if that happened in 2020. But like that's great, but like at the end of the day, does it happen? Like, can we?
It does.
And I'm not even looking at DC as by itself, right? Like we're talking about like the country as a whole,
right?
And
well,
no, it doesn't.
It does. If we're talking about Minneapolis, there's examples you can find. Baltimore, obviously, there's examples you can find.
2014, they did not.
Throughout. Maybe just in your one protest, but I feel like black people generally know.
Hold up, endless.
Do you
Stardust?
Acknowledge that a bunch of white college students will go to these protests and destroy shit, and then the people who are left cleaning up the damage are the people who live in those communities? Yeah,
that's why we stop them from destroying shit. I kind of feel like you okay. How politically engaged were you in the protest that you went to?
I was pretty politically engaged.
But you didn't see anyone trying to stop people from breaking anything?
Well, yeah, of course we did. I mean, though, like, yeah, of course we did. And if people if people were doing that kind of stuff, like we would try to stop them, or we would try to stay away from them sometimes, because they would be dangerous. But it doesn't change the fact. It doesn't change the fact. You can look at these little interactions and say like, oh, like.
It's a lot
we
of them.
say this, we say that, but like if you look at the grand scheme of things, like there are a lot of places that are affected by violences towards their businesses, and they don't rebuild.
They don't, because they don't have. So, but the people who burn them down aren't them. First of all, but second of all, you go ahead, D&D. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry, I have to go super soon. I have fucking work really early in the morning. But all right. So the two things I want to say: number one, endless. Can you acknowledge that your experience with a protest and with the codes at a protest might not apply to every single protest that has happened under the BLM movement, right? You can acknowledge that, correct?
Just most of them, because I'm tapped in with a lot of the people who organize those protests.
It's not every single protest that has that code. It's not every single protest that would follow that, right? You can acknowledge that, correct?
Which code? What code?
The not destroying a black business and that they'll help rebuild. You can acknowledge that won't happen every single time, right?
You do realize the argument you're trying to make is that black people will destroy their own shit, right?
No, I'm not making that argument.
Putting words in his mouth. That is so fucking disingenuous.
This is exactly what fucking Polly did to me that pissed me off when I fucking said people should understand who they're voting for.
Okay, hang on. Before you do that, how do I draw that out? How do I draw that out? Because the people in the protest are people who live in that neighborhood. That means that those people need.
That's not true. No. Endless. Yo, listen. There are people.
You and I both know. If you've been to these protests, you and I both know.
You don't think most of the people in a protest in a city are from that city?
Yeah, but
a lot of them are, but there are
significant parts. There are significant parts of a protest. People from outside will come in and participate, and it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, if violence happens, the people who live in those communities suffer.
Right, and you're telling me that number one, the people who live in those communities will allow the violence to happen.
No, I never said that. But I'm saying that violence sets a movement back.
It doesn't.
It does.
I think it depends on
the outcomes of the violence. Are you going to work for 12 hours tomorrow, or are you going to work for 8?
What does that have to do with anything?
Me? Or
the fact that literally the reason why you don't work in a sweatshop for 12 hours a day is because cops got dynamite thrown at them. But we talk about how
the reason why I don't work the reason why I don't work as a fucking in a third world country is because my parents came here. But yes,
that's cool. My parents didn't come here looking for opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
in fact, my family didn't come here looking for anything at all.
No, I understand that. And again, that still doesn't make your argument though, right? Like the argument here is there are plenty of throughout the entirety of history, we can look at points in history where violence has significantly set people back.
Right.
Significantly set movements back.
I agree with you there.
That to ignore that is completely blind. I don't know why. Like,
Right.
you acknowledge that, yes, violence is the
Yes.
result of things boiling over.
That's
I've never
true.
disputed that. But you're being so uncharitable.
How am I
putting
being
words
uncharitable?
In his mouth. You're
I'm
putting
not.
words in his mouth. Yes,
Okay.
you are. You've been
Okay.
uncharitable this entire fucking conversation.
Really? Okay. Number one. Okay. So I literally acknowledge that political violence can set your movement back in terms of optics. But what that means when the status quo in terms of optics and who gets to decide what is the status quo being white supremacy, I don't necessarily know what that means, but also we're literally living in America. We're talking about America. Why we would talk about ancient history or world history when we're talking about prescriptions for the country we live in?
History. It's not ancient
Endless.
history.
Hold up.
History is important.
I think that
World
violence
history
a lot more
is important,
nuanced
and
than
I'm
we give it
talking
credit
about
for.
American history.
I don't want to seem rude, but I gotta cut both of you off right here. The argument of using history doesn't fucking mean that every example. It doesn't mean that every example is going to be the same. Like, for example, say political violence has worked in the past. In some cases, yes.
In the country we live in, contemporarily.
We also have to be able to fucking acknowledge that it can do harm to a movement. It can not only do optic harm, but it can stall the willingness to pass legislation, right?
Whose
during
fault is
BLM
that,
in
though?
2020, in BLM during 2020, there was this huge bill that was supposed to be bipartisan, that was a police reform bill, right? That people were talking about how the movement was going to pass it and stuff. Once the media started running more stories about violence at protests and riots and stuff, what happened? That bill quickly was fucking swept under the rug.
Yes,
never talked
this
about
is why
again.
this conversation is silly, is because the police were literally under consent decree in multiple fucking jurisdictions where the DOJ investigated and said that the police were out here sexually assaulting people, robbing people, killing people indiscriminately.
I'm
So
not
then-
defending the police.
so
But I'm saying,
you
can't
are,
you
though.
acknowledge
You are, though.
your fucking average person, if they see a movement like this, or if they see a movement not like that, sorry, if they see a movement that is encouraging or promoting violence, can't you acknowledge that they're more likely to vote for someone who opposes bills that benefit that particular group that they view as causing the violence?
What does that mean when the average person is voting for white supremacy in the country, though?
Sorry, repeat your question.
What does that actually mean? If you're talking about the average person, and we know that the average person has some level of misogyny, some level of transphobia, some level of white supremacy, like, why are we appealing to the averages when we should look at those movements and say,
your community of like what? How big is your community of like lefties? How big is it?
just on Twitch or like in real life?
In real life, how many people do you know 100% can stand up and do something right now if you were to ask?
I honestly could not count. I'm one of Baltimore, I'm lucky, happens to be especially the particular area that I live in, because like I said before, I'm part of the punk scene, I'm part of the metal scene. So like I could easily right now, I literally just did a couple months ago a fundraiser for Food Not Bombs, and my friend Gary came through. He cooks every Saturday for Food Not Bombs, and there's people that serve with him. There's people who do jail solidarity, like a dozen or so people. There's people who do There's people who do.
No, I wasn't laughing at you. I was just laughing at something else.
I'm not
Holy
surprised
shit.
by that.
Oh fuck! You're.
I know. I saw what you're laughing at
oh, fuck.
because it's funny.
Sorry.
Yeah, but there's the funny thing is that there's probably plenty of lefties in your community too. They're just not on the internet, because that's the thing, right?
I've organized outside of real life. I'm not a fucking terminally online lefty.
I didn't accuse
but I can tell you right now, Endless, I live in a fucking very rural southern area. I can tell you there's maybe 25 lefties that are willing to like actually engage off the internet in any meaningful way. That does not compare to the like. I think it's what like
the absolute hogs in your
400,000 something people in my county.
I'll see you guys later. Good luck.
That doesn't compare to that group. Good luck, Star. I'm going to shoot you a DM on Twitter later. I'd like to have a convo
if I can just say real quick, guys. I'm guys. I just want you to know tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern on YouTube.
We saw talking to Richard Spencer, right?
Talking to Richard Spencer, interviewing Richard Spencer. Come check it out. See you guys.
Can I ask you out of care? What are you asking him? Oh, never mind. She's just going to do another free PR campaign for him.
What question would you want for her to
endless,
ask him
right?
that you think would be like a slam dunk on him?
You don't slam dunk those people. Them talking to you is literally exactly what they want, which is why he keeps doing it. And I don't know why people haven't figured that out yet, but.
Okay, endless, right? But so in an example like mine, right? The lefties will never be able to accomplish anything in this area. You might have a different circumstance, but I can guarantee you a majority of the country doesn't have the privilege of living in an area where like lefties are willing to like stand up and defend each other and like help each other out and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, black people do it all the time. Black people do it all. I was gonna say hoods do it all the time.
Dog, like you saying that shit about trans people earlier, that shit blew my fucking mind. We were like, yeah, I was 8 and there's like a prominent trans person. I was like, holy shit. I grew up in a completely different fucking part of the country than you did. Holy fuck.
Endless. Two more things. Right. 2 more things. Number one, as a Jewish person, I can tell you right now, I've made jokes about the Holocaust and stuff, even recently, because it's a good way not only to fucking cope with like a trauma that's like pushed onto a community, but it's also a good way to like draw in like Joe Schmo who isn't like super politically or historically knowledgeable with something that might make him laugh, so you can have a broader conversation about it.
Okay, so when someone comes in and starts making the Holocaust jokes or start laughing at the Holocaust jokes, how do you know it's not because they're a raging anti-Semite?
I don't think that you can tell, which is why I'm not defending the people in Stardust chat, like making like edgy things like that. If they're POC leftists, that's great. They're entitled.
They are not leftists.
Jokes. Hold up. If they are people of color on the left, I think they're entitled to make those jokes.
I would say the same, but I definitely wouldn't do any type of shit like that in public, specifically because if I make a slavery joke and a white person, even if a cat sneezes near a white person, a fight is going to happen.
Wait a fucking minute, okay? If you're going to talk about my fucking community, yes, they are POC leftists. If you want to know,
leftists.
You can come fucking talk to them and for yourself that they're POC leftists, and you can eat your shit, okay? Don't fucking talk about my.
They're not leftists. Like they might be people of color, but they're not leftists.
They're leftists. They're leftists.
Define leftists.
So hold up. Then all right. Let me quickly ask you this. Endless. How are you a leftist? How can you prove that you're a leftist besides us taking that you're being honest with your ideology?
I'm just gonna say
because I don't help the neo-Nazis.
My fucking community's name out of your mouth. Don't fucking talk shit about them. If you don't know shit about them, you haven't spent a single minute with them, so you don't have the right to even say shit about
Stardust,
them.
I've literally been on your channel twice. I've literally talked to her on her channel twice. So she's saying that I have no interaction with her chat, and it's just a straight up lie. She's just mad as shit that she's being called out on how edgy her chat is, because me, as an actual self-identified leftist and an identified leftist, don't have any people like that in my chat.
Anything about my fucking community. You've been on my channel to talk to me. You haven't talked to my fucking community. No.
They don't come to your channel?
They come into my channel, but they weren't talking to you. I was talking to you.
I couldn't see their comments or anything?
I'm sure you could see some of them. Majority of the people in my community are leftists and they're POC.
Can I ask you a serious question, Stardust?
No, I actually need to go to bed now.
Why does it bother you so much that people point out how edgy your chat is?
I don't mind my chat being edgy.
Then how are they leftists? How are they leftists?
There's nothing wrong with being edgy and
there's nothing wrong with being edgy.
Can a leftist be a little edgy? Can a leftist? Yeah. I mean, I
I make jokes about trauma all the time. It's fine.
That's true, but I make jokes about trauma all the time, but not with the people who cause it, pretending like I'm humanizing myself to them.
Because now you're not being a lefty. Endless, that fucking
That's not what I said.
No,
that's not what I said.
Endless.
Do leftists make edgy jokes?
In the comment section that wanted us to look at the screen real quick of the joke of Stardust with the Bang Bros or Brazzers KKK.
Oh, with the Klansmen around her? Yeah, that's mad funny.
I love being objectified. It's great.
I know you do. You keep talking to Richard Spencer.
Yeah, because Richard Spencer objectifies me as much as Mowdy did.
Do you think that Mowdy thinks the same way about you that Richard Spencer does?
Endless. No. Endless. I want you to Endless. I want you right now to condemn. I want you right now to condemn the person who made that piece of artwork for putting Stardust next to a bunch of white supremacists and objectifying her.
If I were a man, would you have made that same meme?
Yeah, because you literally didn't you put yourself next to white supremacists?
Honestly, you can't say that honestly, and you're being a fucking hypocrite right now.
It's an unfalsifiable claim, first of all, but the first person to put you next to neo-Nazis was you, Stardust.
Yeah, and guess what? I shut people down if they're objectifying me. But if I were a man and I were doing the same exact shit, because a lot of male content creators do, you would not have made that meme. He would not have made that meme.
You can assert that, but there's no way to falsify that.
You can try to deny it.
Is there a meme on his page, that exact meme with Vosh, who has engaged with very far-right people? Is there a meme of Destiny on that page?
Hang on.
With Richard Spencer.
Hang on. Hold on.
If there is not, do not try to fucking call out like edgy humor and shit, because you sound like a fucking hypocrite.
Can you tell me how many of those people have done interviews where they don't challenge anything that Richard Spencer does?
Destiny barely challenged Lauren Southern.
Destiny? The person who's literally banned from Twitch right now, the person literally banned from Destiny that no one likes.
You have not looked at the majority of my work. As I was saying earlier, if you've seen any of my panels that have far righters on them, I have yelled at Nick Fuentes. I've yelled at Beardson. I have yelled at every far righter who's come onto my platform.
I get that, but the people who watch that just see two people yelling at each other.
The people who you said without pushback. I gave pushback. Yeah, I give pushback all the fucking time.
Right, it doesn't matter. They push back too, zero-sum game.
You were fucking asking me. That's not what you asked. You fucking asked me, do I give them pushback?
Right, yeah, Richard Spencer.
The Richard Spencer interview is the first interview, and I was building rapport with the guy. And guess what? I didn't ask him all easy questions. There were questions that were about, hey, dude, you fucking failed your movement. How does it feel that somebody else took it farther than you? You clearly don't fucking watch my...
hard question. What a hard question.
You clearly don't watch my...
That question definitely challenged white supremacy.
Talk about my community because you don't know shit about my community.
Why are you so mad that your community likes to use slurs?
I have no problem with my community being edgy, but if they use slurs, they get banned immediately.
Okay.
And endless. If there's examples of it, I'm going to speak on Stardust's behalf here. If there are examples of like people in Stardust chat doing that, send them to her. I'm sure she's more than happy to keep actual harm from her community.
You know what's wild though?
We banned that guy that Jason Society said.
You know what's wild is that I don't attract people like that with my content.
Well, I'm glad that you don't have to deal with it. But guess what?
I do have to deal with it. I do have to deal with it. I just don't invite it.
People to your community, you don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, unbelievable. You have people who make misogynistic memes about me, but you don't have to deal with slurs. That's awesome.
I don't have slurs in my chat.
The slurs that happen in my chat most of the time are directed towards me, and I can handle them. We ban them immediately.
Oh, so it's cool when they use them just for you.
It's not cool.
Hold up.
You think that these people like me, Endless? I am the primary person that they fucking harass.
I mean, why do you keep letting them, though, is the question.
I mean, look, like after a while, like, again, I keep at it. And I'm sorry if that's not for you, but I keep at it, and I do know where I'm successful.
But you can't show it.
Effective. I would rather not. I keep messages. private. Yeah.
It seems like that kind of thing would be important if that's literally your goal, but
I don't care about proving shit to you. What I do care,
it's not proving shit. It's demonstrating that it actually works.
There's tons of studies that will validate what I'm saying. There are tons of studies that'll validate what I'm saying.
I mean, we've already been. Aston already told you guys you were reading the studies wrong.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry. Aston is a fucking dumb fucking idiot.
Oh, well, which one of you guys has a degree? Because we have a guy with a master's in psychology who would tell you directly about this.
I have a guy with a master's in counterterrorism.
Make you an expert.
A master's in counterterrorism. Was he a CIA agent telling you about who you should handle Nazis? What a joke.
Well, look, again, I have multiple people. I have somebody in my community, like one of my mods, again, spoke with the Prime Minister of Australia. So, I mean, like, I'm sorry. Your response to that was, oh, I threw some Nazis out of a club one time. Look.
You literally said you threw some Nazis out of your country one time. What's the difference?
Hold up, endless. Here's my question. Okay.
Prime Minister of a country, not a completely different scale.
Kind of like busting out windows and wheeling out guillotines to decapitate people.
Busting out windows is not the extent of what it is. It's burning down businesses. It's destroying businesses that people.
Right. Target. You're telling me burning down Target sets people's movements back.
Well, I'm not talking about Target. I'm talking about local businesses.
Local businesses of people that they need and use and are in their communities every day. Right. Right. So you're saying that the people of color are burning down their own businesses in their own communities.
I'm not saying that they are, but I'm saying that violence. I've never said anything about them burning down their own businesses, but I have said violence sets people back.
Right. So what about the state's violence?
None of us have said the state's violence is acceptable. Why are you strawmanning?
I'm not strawmanning because when you say violence sets people back and you don't acknowledge it as a direct reaction to the state's violence.
I've never not acknowledged it. I've acknowledged it several times in this conversation. It seems like you can't get it through your fucking head endless because you're fucking retarded.
I have to go. I have shit to do in the morning.
The R-slur? Crazy. When that comes out.
This was so fucking unproductive, endless. You seriously need to sit down and, like, if you want to have a conversation with people, have a conversation. Don't try to fucking guilt them or fucking.
How am I literally just asked you basic questions. I asked you basic questions that you couldn't answer.
I answered every single one of your questions.
No, you did not.
No, we answered your question.
You said violence. You said violence.
No, you don't know my community. I would appreciate it.
I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna find out.
Keep my fucking community out of your fucking mouth.
If I tweet out right now, hey everybody, reply with the sketchiest shit you've ever seen in Stardust chat. Do you think it's gonna look similar to mine or a little bit differently from mine?
The chats all look different. My chat for the most point is people directly reacting to what I say or making or making jokes about trans people. I'm sure about themselves because most of my
because that's happening next, right? You know that's happening next. Me just tweeting out, "Hey,
that's great.
Reply with the sketchiest shit you've seen." But also, because I really need to really drill down on this point about violence setting people's movements back because it's a Republican talking point. If we're talking about Robespierre fucking his movement up by handing power to Napoleon, sure, violence set their movement back. But that's not America, and that's not contemporary history.
And in other movements as well. If you don't acknowledge that, you're fucking brain dead. I seriously have to go because I have shit to do.
And I'm acknowledging that, but I'm asking you, what the fuck does that have to do with America now? Aside from the fact that you're using...
Stardust and I both brought up examples of how the violence during BLM made the movement look optically bad and set policy back. If that and
I brought up examples in this country from the same movements of people doing far worse shit and getting shit accomplished. So if it's a zero-sum game and we know that we're fighting against fascism, why on earth would you be like, damn, that violence set their movement back? Especially
I'll have to have a conversation with you at another point. I have shit to do. I'm going to message you later, though, Endless. I'd like to have an actual conversation with you. I'm sorry.
Kool-Aid Heads Prevail. Talk about some video games first. Yeah. Endless. I wanted to point out someone.
It's just I'm just like I could. Sorry, because it's just like fam. Stonewall, fucking Haymarket affair, fucking the Blair Mountain, the Battle of Blair Mountain, fucking, you know what I mean? Like literally, there are so many things that you personally owe your rights directly to in terms of direct action and quote unquote political violence, that it's like bringing up shit from other countries at other far off periods of time in history just to prove your point that sometimes doing shit in the streets as opposed to just talking to Nazis on the internet is bad because you don't have the ability to actually do that. And it's not even like I'm trying to shit on people for that, because direct action is not for everybody. There's different levels of capability for everyone.
Yeah.
So if you're going to say that political violence sets movement back, it sure as fuck doesn't set it back for the fascists who literally own the country, right? There was January 6th, but what happened after January 6th? Because since then, I've seen them roll back Roe v. Wade. They're getting ready to roll back fucking gay marriage. You know what I'm saying? There's all this shit happening at the state level. It kind of seems like January 6th galvanized them. And if I was going to hedge a bet, I would wager that they're probably going to try to do it again, because not only that thing has literally already happened. Wilmington, North Carolina, they literally overthrew the government so that they can reinstall a white supremacist because they were mad that the liberal government was allowing black people to participate. Not only that, it sparked off a massive fucking riot, a massive I don't know what word to use, so I'm just going to use the word pogrom and hope that it doesn't offend anyone. And when I refer to that, know that when you think of Tulsa, that happened more than once and in more than one area. So when you're talking about humanizing yourself to people, be aware of the fact that there will always be a certain percentage, a non-zero percentage of the country that will never humanize you. And they will always want to try to kill you and destroy everything that you've built, no matter how you've built it or who you've built it with. Yeah. So people are a little confused if they want to say that political violence sets back movements when they, first of all, have their personal rights from political violence, but also the opposition has installed their entire power structure through political violence. We're talking about slavery, we're talking about patriarchy, we're talking about misogyny, whatever. Poverty itself is violence. People live through the violence of poverty daily. That's why capitalism is fucked.
Yeah,